Good morning, good day, and good evening to you, wherever it is that you might find yourself at this beautiful moment in time. Welcome to the Wednesday Wanderer, the show where we unravel the beauty of adventure and creativity one story at a time. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. We are also brought to you by Michael B. Isbell Media. At Michael B. Isbell Media, we specialize in online branding and massive campaign content creation for any company or brand to help boost your visibility online. Using the power of content writing, photography, podcasting, and videography to reach your community where they already spend their time and attention. As well as our direct branding and consultation services, we have helped thousands of brands across North America become more efficient and save time and understanding on their creative process by making easy to read and understand digital tools that will walk you through the steps to building out your brand in a massive way off the work you're likely already doing. Shop Michael B. Isbell features a broad variety of merch that you can pick up to show your support for any of the shows under MBIM's network, such as The Wednesday Wanderer, M&M's for Breakfast, or any of my own content with creative designs constantly being added in for purchase. Be sure to use the coupon code TWWSupport on shopmichaelbisbell.com to receive 20% off your entire purchase, whether that be digital or physical products. That's TWW Support on shopmichaelbisbell.com. Today, we are super lucky to have Jenna Monaco here on the show with us. Jenna Monaco is a holistic mental health management brand creating content on her podcast, Spark Intentions, which I was actually featured on an episode of and highly recommend you check out after this episode, as well as her career as an author and mentor to help her community break out of the chains that their mindset has set so you can stop feeling stuck, harness the power within yourself, and amplify your life on every level, utilizing her messy bun, messy action take on the creation process. This episode is a very special one for me as it really hits home on something that I have personally been dealing with now for about a year. As you may know, if you've listened to this podcast in the past, last year when I had to move away from California, my entire world turned upside down. The depression and inner struggle that has been raging in my head ever since we drove away has kept me from pursuing so many of the things that were starting to flower and so many of the things that I genuinely just love doing. I just wanted to take a moment to apologize to any of the guests that you guys are going to hear over the next coming weeks for any of the delays in your episodes being put out, as well as the listeners who have been coming back and looking for new episodes every single week. I'm so sorry that I fell off the map, but I am so happy to be able to say that I have conquered this period of self-doubt, and I am fully ready to jump back into things head first. In this episode, Jenna and I talk a lot about depression in your work, dealing and pushing through anxiety, finding efficiencies to make your life easier, family trauma and how it affects all of your aspects of your craft, and so many other things that I cannot wait for you to hear about. So without further ado, I give you Jenna Monaco. All right. What's up, Jenna? How's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing awesome. So, as you guys already know, if you're watching this, because you've already heard the, pre-produced whole little intro sequence thing, Jenna's running a awesome brand, Messy Bun, Messy Action.
Yes.
You also have a podcast.
I do.
Doing a lot of good things. You got your website. You got a whole bunch of content on Instagram. Welcome. How's it going?
Thank you. It's going so well. I'm so happy to be here. It worked out so well. We have friends in LA, so coming down and just taking a little break from work and school and giving some time for editing for my books. So it's good. Yeah.
And where is it that you're at again?
We're in the Bay Area. Yeah.
The Bay Area.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I want to go there so bad.
You should. It's fun. There's a lot of opportunities there.
I just met a guy at Vid Summit this week. Well, if you're watching this, Vid Summit a month ago, I guess. Yeah, a month ago. And there's a big event going on, and what is it called? It's like, I can't remember what the name of it is, but basically the whole thing, what he does, he has like a nonprofit, and he helps like millions and millions and millions of creators to make content and like teach them. And they're having
Brendon Burchard.
Possibly. I don't remember right. I'll tell you whenever we cut, because I have it like a picture of it and all that stuff.
Cool.
You know, all that. Cool. But he's got this huge event going on in San Francisco, and he's like looking for speakers and stuff and all that stuff too. Yeah. So I was just like, if you're in the Bay Area, I should definitely connect you with him, because like he's looking to like make those connections. He was from Israel. He was a really cool dude. He like moved here and got all that stuff going and everything.
That's so cool. Yes, I would love to connect. The more people we can connect with, I think, as creators, the better. Yeah.
So tell me about your podcast.
Okay, cool. Yes. So my podcast is called Spark Intention, and it is something that I have wanted to do for a really long time, and I just never really knew what I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. And as life would have it, I'm still in school. I've actually been working my way through college for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I realized I was graduating this year, and I was like, I have all of this drive, but I don't know where to place it.
Right.
So I ended up getting a success coach, and we started working through it. And I just kind of dropped the idea to her. I was like, I've kind of always really been into podcasts. I love listening to them, and they really inspire me. And she was like, well, we'll go for it. So I started to think about my story and where I come from. And a lot of it was naturally healing my stress and anxiety. And the more that I got to talking to people, the more I realized that there's like an anxiety epidemic happening in, like, at least in the millennial group that I belong to. And I know further out generationally, there's just like this huge anxiety gap, like an epidemic. And I wanted to incorporate that with success and business coaching, because I really love talking about business strategies, and I love talking about marketing and branding. It's something I went to school for back in the day. It was like my first college I went to, I got an associate's in merchandise marketing.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of, I wanted to combine the two. So basically, Spark Intention is building that intention around creating success in our life, business, and relationships, while also taking care of ourselves.
Right.
So that's what the podcast is about. We have a lot of fun. I'm really dorky, so that comes across a lot. And I have some really incredible interviews with people, and we talk everything from, depression to, like marketing strategies.
Right.
So it's combining the two, I think, in a really beautiful way. You have to take care of your health if you want to be successful.
I 100% agree. I could not agree more. I didn't go to college. I actually moved here when I was 19 and just kind of packed all my stuff into a car and drove out here and was like, let's do it. I got it. I got it. Mm-hmm. Actually, one of the things that you were talking about made me think about that this morning. I was listening to one of your episodes this morning. It was the imposter syndrome episode. Yes. I want to say episode 21, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Weird photographic memory, the numbers. It just stuck out.
I have photographic memory too.
Yeah. I really liked what you were talking about. Like, I 100% agreed with a lot of that too, because it's just all about taking action at the end of the day. Like, here's the thing. People say that 1% of people are successful or 2% of people are successful. First off, what is success?
Right.
I mean, in my opinion, if you can't complain about anything and you're happy with where you're at, you're successful.
Yeah.
And if that means that you go and you clock in, someone signs your paychecks for you, great. You figured it out. Mm-hmm. You've got your thing. You've got it. Good. Awesome. But I think that a lot of that anxiety comes because, like, one of the things you were talking about, channeling your creativity and how it's not necessarily something that you have, but something that you more channel. Yeah. I 100% agree with that as well, because, like, it's just so there, like, for lack of a better term. And people, they go to work and they suppress the thing inside of them that they know that they want to do, even if you've never actually sat there and you've thought about it. And so maybe you can't like put it into words. You don't know exactly what it is, the direction and that sort of thing, which is fine. Obviously everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But deep down, everyone has a value and a message that they need to share. Everyone. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber and your life goal is to make people feel safe. Yeah. And so you go out and you start a plumbing business so that families can sleep well at night knowing that their plumbing's not going to explode and have some weird, crazy flooding in their house or something. Mm-hmm. And that's your passion. Yeah. Cool, dude. Like, that's your passion. That's what you're meant to do, is to make people feel safe. That's mm-hmm. like, it all kind of skims down to that core message of making people feel safe. I think that people have this thing inside of them, and they know ultimately what it is that they need to be doing. Yeah. And they, instead of pursuing that, it's a fear versus faith kind of thing is what I call it, right? Yeah. So you either have the fear that you can't do it and faith in someone else's ability to provide for you, or you have faith in yourself and you believe in your own ability to provide for yourself as opposed to someone else's ability to do it for you.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so it's just like, going back to the percentages thing, like people say 2% of people, let's just use that as a number, 2% of people are successful. Mm-hmm. In reality, if you want to break it down, it's actually more like 50% of people that actually try are successful, because 96% of that ultimate, 100% of people are not taking any action at all. Yeah. They go to work, they clock in, and they go home, they turn on Netflix so that they can drown out their lives and forget that they're miserable, not following their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny. So I was mentioning Brendon Burchard, and I actually saw him at a talk back in August, and he was saying, he's a motivational speaker, and he speaks at a room of thousands of people, and he was saying that with a goal. So he was saying, like, okay, everyone raise your hand if you have a goal or you have a dream, and everyone raises their hand, yeah. And then he says, now, keep your hand up if your best friend knows what that is. And he's like, it's devastating. Every hand goes down. And I think that it just goes back to what you were saying about fear. It's like, we're so afraid to even want something because we're so afraid of not getting it. And that goes into abundance and lack mindset. And that there's so much around that. Yeah. But it's so true that we are afraid to want something better or want something more. And I think that even if we don't know our end goal or our end purpose, it's because we're so afraid. And the more you take steps, the clearer that can get.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it just takes a nudge. It's like, well, I kind of want to try learning how to ride a motorcycle. Who knows where that will take you? Yeah. But if you can follow those little nudges along the way, it can lead to seriously massive success and purpose. Yeah. I think, following those nudges will allow you to get to that purpose. And goal.
I think people just focus too much on the vehicle when that's not what matters. Yeah. Because like I was saying with the plumber, that same person could realize 5 years from now that they don't want to deal with plumbing anymore, but their message is still to make people feel safe. Yeah. There is always a core to what it is that you're doing, and the vehicle can change. Whenever I was in high school, I launched my YouTube channel in 2008, and it was all about music. That's all I did. That's all I wanted to do. It was my only dream. That was it. Just music. Nothing else. Yep. I made videos about music. I recorded myself singing. I did covers. I wrote my songs all throughout high school. It's kind of funny. I didn't even go to lunch at all, with my class and stuff. Oh my gosh. I was social. I had plenty of friends and everything. But I was very disciplined growing up, and not for any particular reason. It's just that I follow my passions. I only do the things that I want to do ever. And if I don't 100% want to do it, I don't do it. And ultimately that's what it comes down to. But my vehicle at the time was, I would sacrifice the hour and a half lunch or whatever. I'd get my lunch, go into a practice room, and I'd be playing piano and practicing songs and writing and all that kind of stuff, just because that's what I was really wanting to do. And I did that every single day for my senior year. Every day, without fail. Yeah, and I had free periods, different classes that I didn't have to go to because I was an office aide, that kind of thing. Every free chance I had, I was in that practice room, playing piano, writing songs, getting better, learning who I was, just thinking. And when I play music, the way I write is I don't actually write it down and then go in and try to formulate it and all that kind of technical stuff. I kind of reverse engineer it, basically.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I sit down, I turn on a recorder, and then I just freestyle. So I'll say this is a freestyle, so don't judge it too hard, Michael, because I know myself and I know I'm going to judge it. So I tell myself, don't judge yourself. This is freestyle. This is not a real song, so be chill, okay? Yeah. And then I just go and I just play and I sing whatever comes to mind, and then later on I'll write down what works, and if it doesn't work, cool, it's gone, whatever,
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, though, well, not somewhere along the line, when I moved out here at 19, the first 3 months that I lived here, that's how I earned my rent. I went to Huntington Beach and I played guitar, and I realized that whenever I was playing because I had to, I hated it.
Yep.
It sucked. It sucked all the life out of it. The creativity was gone. The passion was gone. It was, I have to go there. I have to make this much money. I have to stay out there in the heat and do this until it's done, or I'm not going to survive. And that was a thing that made me start to hate the music. And so it's like, I realized that the core, the value of what I wanted, I was focusing too much on the distribution vehicle, right? I was focusing too much on being a musician.
Yeah.
Whenever the core of what I am is really just the positivity and the passion and the creativity and everything that goes into that. The mindset really is what I'm all about, not necessarily the music. And I still do music. Like, I haven't stopped, but it's not the focus. It's like, when you realize what the core message is, what your core value is, you can always adjust.
Yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that a lot, where it's like he was the wine guy until he was the business guy, and then he was the business guy until he was the entrepreneur guy, and he's the entrepreneur guy until he's the mindset guy. Like, he just steadily changing his business model, changing his focus, what it is that he's doing. But ultimately, the core value, the message, what you're trying to give to the world, that doesn't change. It stays the same.
That's so true.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of that fear comes from people they're focused on being a musician. And it's like, I mean, you can only listen to so much music, so there's only going to be so many people that make it into the ears of everyone.
Yeah. True.
It's literally impossible for everyone to make it. But they focus on that vehicle instead of thinking, okay, well, what message do my songs say? Right. You can make YouTube videos about that. You can take the audio. If you don't want to make a podcast, you can pull the audio from your YouTube videos and just put a little disclaimer in the beginning that says, hey guys, this is an audio format of my video. If you want to watch the video, here's where it is. Otherwise, enjoy listening.
Yeah.
And then you just pull the audio, place the audio in, boom, you got a podcast. You want to write a blog, but you don't have the time to actually write a blog. You make videos, go in, type out the copy for it. You put it into Google, because you should always transcribe your videos if you're making videos, because the Google it's getting better, but it'll usually change some of the words that you say, or it mishears you and doesn't really recognize what you're saying. So you want to go in and actually type up what you're saying, so that way it can translate it in any country. They can listen to it. It opens you up on a global basis.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but if you're doing that, you literally take the same text, which is just you writing out what you're saying, and put it on a blog. Throw some screen captures on there. Boom, you've got a blog. It's different distribution platforms, but it's still the same message. It's still the same content at the end of the day.
Yeah, Injili is a huge business guru that I follow, and she talks about don't reinvent the wheel. She's really big on Instagram and Facebook Lives, and that's how she really likes to connect to her audience. And she records those, and that's her podcast. Most of her podcasts are just those Instagram Lives, and it's about that message, like you're saying. It's about getting that particular message out, and that message in different platforms.
Absolutely.
You don't have to record the podcast and then write the blog post and then take a video on the same thing, when you can just do all of them at the same time and reach different people, because there are different people on different platforms.
See, that's the thing. Yeah, I call it frictionless experience. It's removing any sort of friction. It's just making it native to every single platform. So it's you have to realize, I don't know what the exact number is, but I work in social media marketing first off. So for the last 3 years, I built a social media agency where we built a small business solution. So it's scalable. We can make it $100 to $200 for, anyone. So a plumber, contractor, photographer, video. It doesn't matter what you do. You get weekly content on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just, I've found some programs and different ways to do it where it's just super scalable. So then it's affordable for us. So then we can make it affordable for them. Right?
Yeah.
So with that, with sharing their messages, I totally lost my train of thought.
Oh, you were talking. It's okay. No, we were talking about making things scalable and frictionless.
Right. That's what it was. Yeah. So with social media, you have to realize like I think it's 36% if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. So if you're listening to this, sorry if the statistic is wrong, but something like 36% of people that use the internet will only use like one website.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when they go online, Google doesn't exist to them. They don't go on MySpace didn't exist to them. Twitter doesn't exist to them. Instagram doesn't exist to them. They only go to Facebook.
Yeah.
They only go to Instagram. They only go to Tumblr or whatever it is. Yeah. It's like there's and it's growing too. That percentage is growing. On average, around 80% of people only use up to 2 social media platforms ever.
Yeah.
So if you're not on everything, then you don't exist to those people.
Yeah.
And if the message of if really what you're trying to do is connect to everyone and you're not putting content out on every single platform, even if it's just redistributions in a native format, so, obviously it's not the same exact thing. Like on Instagram, I've got a photo and some long text, right? Some hashtags, all that good stuff for Instagram, because that's how Instagram likes to see content.
Yep.
I'll shorten that same content though into a Twitter format. So maybe there's only 2 hashtags or 3 hashtags and the content's like half of what it actually says on Instagram. And then you upload a square photo instead of the, 4x5 photo or whatever. So there's like small variations to make it native. But if I don't do that, then the people that only use Twitter will never know that I exist.
So true.
And what happens if what happened to MySpace happens to the platform that you're using?
Oh man, I think about that all the time. And I think about that as far as like when you're building a community, like if you get anything out of this podcast episode, which I hope you get a lot out of it, or this YouTube video, like please make sure that you're taking your community offline and like building some sort of email list.
Yeah.
Do not like have your entire business on Instagram, because if Instagram goes somewhere tomorrow, you have to build that all over again.
Yeah.
And you really want to actually connect to the people, like the people that connect to you. And I think that we get lost in the numbers game. And it's the people that are connecting, that single number, that's a real person.
Yeah.
And you really, truly want to get to know them.
Absolutely.
And I think that we get lost in like, how many likes did I get? How many comments did I get? And then I see a lot of people, they struggle and they're like, why am I not getting the engagement I want? And I'm like, well, do you comment back?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, well, no, I don't. And it's like,
do you comment on other people's stuff?
Yeah, you've got to cultivate that community. You have to be that person that you can, because people are going to see you for a second and then they're going to forget if you aren't engaging with them.
Yep.
So I forget where that was going, but we were talking about building outside of your and creating that community off of any social media platform to something you own. Yeah, is so important. And it's something that, I think we all as entrepreneurs, like we have our seasons. Like sometimes we're trying to build that community, sometimes we're trying to build that following, or sometimes like our season is major content creation, or maybe you have like a huge event coming up and you're in an event season or something like that. But I think that definitely if you want to build a community and something that's lasting and a legacy, you have to take that off of those social media platforms and have those emails and have those connections and stay connected to those people.
Yeah. And even outside of email connections, because email could go away tomorrow.
You could go to, you're so right. Yeah.
Like people don't even really like to use emails anymore because it's all spam. They get millions and millions of emails. It's like, you email me and good luck. Like, unless I know to look for it, like good luck, it's probably just going to slip in there and go unseen for a while, So I don't know. I just think it's super important to always diversify your assets. It's, I actually think about social media and just broadcasting in general, similar to the stock market. If you think about it like that, then you can, like you were saying, there's different seasons to focus on different things, like whenever you're feeling super creative, super passionate about something, you should definitely be leaning into that creativity. And maybe you have to put some other things on pause, but that's okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like the only person that cares is you.
So true.
Like nobody else cares. I think that's another thing with the fear. It's like, it's kind of savage, but honestly, like at the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's like they want what they are going to get for them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. Like if your message helps them, that's cool. They care about that message for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all self-serving on social media. Like you have to understand that when you're making content. I was actually just talking to this lady at Vid Summit this week about this exact same thing. And we were talking about how if you make every single piece of content something that you would stop and watch, you will succeed.
Yeah.
Because the purpose of this whole thing of building a community, like you said, is to have like-minded individuals.
Right.
And obviously you'll have your outliers that are completely different from you, but they like you for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But whenever you're making content that you would stop and engage with that content, then people that are like you are going to stop and engage with that content.
Yeah.
You have to reverse engineer it. And like you said, realize that the number is a person.
Yeah.
And it also comes with comparisons. Like people look at these pages that have 1 million followers, but they don't realize that that's not 1 million active people that are looking at your stuff. The only difference between someone that has 1 million followers and someone that has 1,000 followers is time. That's it.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens. Let's say you gain 1,000 followers a month, right? So it's 12,000 every year, and you've done this for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So like obviously you have like 1.2 million or something like that. Whatever the math is.
I'm not good at math.
I think it's like 1.2 million, but whatever the number is. Most of those people will still be following you, but they will never look at your content because they may not even have the app anymore. What about all those kids that uninstalled Facebook when the Facebook Cambridge Analytica stuff came out?
Yeah.
But they already liked these pages. They're not going to go in and unlike the page before they delete the app. But they don't even have the app anymore. But you're basing that number and saying, this is my success because I have this number. That dude doesn't even have the app anymore. That's why you get 10,000 likes to your 1 million followers, because that's the number of people that are actually looking at your content. That's the people that are actually engaging on a day-to-day basis. And maybe they come back later, maybe they don't. I honestly I personally believe it's like the Gary Vee tactic of what he talks about all the time is that like, I don't want people to always watch my content. Like I make things so that people can then do their thing.
Right.
So like if you're always watching my content, you're not making yours.
True.
It's like the point of what you're doing should be to share your message. And like to enable other people. People kind of like have this whole cloak and daggers thing with the online marketplace. And I don't, I can't think of a better word to say. So I'm just going to say it's bullshit. Like it's bullshit. Like they charge you for these things. And like, I understand that time went into like making the presets and time went into making the templates and time went into blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. You already made it and you use it for every single piece of content that you put out. So like, why are you charging other people to do for that? It's like, and charging so much too. It's like they charge like thousands of dollars for these packs that you can literally make on your own just by watching their videos. And like, it's just a time thing, like people don't want to put in the time to do it. And then they're making that quick profit. But here's the problem. When you're making a quick profit off of your audience because they're right now willing to spend the money, 5 to 10 years from now, whenever you think about legacy and what your content is, you're going to die off because eventually no one's going to need that because people like me will have given it to them for free. Yeah. Because like I give everything for free. Everything that I do. If someone asks a question, I will literally walk them through how to do whatever the hell they want. Like I don't hide anything. I don't have secrets because nothing is secret. No. Like I can watch your video, go on Premiere Pro, play with the settings and be like, oh, that's how he color grades his videos until I like get it right, and like
I did that with presets.
Yeah, me too. That's how I learned how to color grade. I got the Peter McKinnon preset pack, and then I just applied it. I love Peter McKinnon. Yeah, he's awesome. Oh my God, he's amazing. Yes. He was at Vid Summit this week too. He spoke. It was really awesome. Yeah, it was a good time. Cool. It's hilarious because he's like super energetic in real life as he is on his videos, but it was really weird to not see this perspective of him. Right. Like to see the rest of his body, it was like, whoa, you have legs. That's weird.
I just did a photo shoot for a rather large blogger in the Bay Area, and I met her, and it's, I mean, I only see her on my phone. Right. So I never, like I said, like I only see her. Or if I see her in a photo, like it's not to scale, and she is so small and tiny. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, for people who aren't seeing me, I'm like 5'7", like pretty like athletic.
Purple hair. Don't forget the purple hair.
Super purple hair.
That's awesome.
And she's just this tiny thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so strange. Like I'm seeing you outside of my phone. But it's the scale. But anyway, sorry, you were saying Peter McKinnon.
Yeah. So the way that I learned how to color grade was Peter McKinnon and Maddie Kapoor. That's like they have an office together, and so like I followed Maddie before they got an office together, but like it's kind of weird. I didn't know that they were connected until they got the office together, and then I was like, oh. They're friends with each other. Okay, cool. That's awesome. That makes sense. They're both in Canada. Okay, cool. You know? But yeah, I got his preset pack. And then what I would do is I took a bunch of different pictures, like different lighting conditions, different atmospheres, like whatever, like a bunch of different photos. And then what I would do is I would apply the preset and see what settings it changed. Right? So it's like if you have a really bright, kind of overexposed photo, apply the preset, see what settings it changed. And if it makes it look better, then you really pay attention, like, okay, cool. So whenever you lower the highlights, it makes the sky look more realistic. And when you adjust the contrast, it makes so you can bump up the exposure without it blowing out the end. Like you learn how all these things are connected. And you can literally sit there and do undo, apply, undo, apply, undo, apply, and just watch the things move around and like, okay, cool. So these are all connected to each other. This is how it works. It's like the reverse engineering kind of thing, you know? But it's like, I have a problem with people that like, I mean, I understand you've got to make a business and you've got to support yourself, but like, I think it would make more sense to have more of a donation style thing for that. Like if you want to put it out there and say like, hey, here's this thing, you can use it for free, but if you really like it and you want to support me and my family, donate. But like forcing someone to pay the money for it, I have a problem with that. Personally. For me,
it's actually about like that connection. So it's like, I'm giving you a free, it's also an accessibility thing though. Like for anyone who has not had the means to buy the fanciest camera or the fanciest equipment or something like that, and they're just starting out, like you are eliminating all of those people by making it this $30, $70, $80 preset. Like all of those people are not able to afford your content. And that's really upsetting to me because everyone should be allowed to be a creative and like have that accessibility. And so for me, it's like, let's trade an email. Like you give me your email. I never send out email blasts because A, I don't want to create them, but B, I never read them. But I have that email so that I can reach out to those people if something really big is happening. That's usually when I use somebody's email, like for the email blast. And it's like, that's a good enough trade for me. That's a good enough trade. I have your connection. You have my connection. I'm not going to bombard you with emails. Like, let's be respectful here. And here is a ViscoCam preset for your Instagram, and here's a Lightroom one if you're more advanced. But ViscoCam is free, and it's a fantastic photo editing I used for a really long time.
I've heard of it. I've never used it personally because I have the whole Adobe suite, so like Lightroom and all that good stuff. You know,
I do too, and it's a good investment. And that's the other thing. Like, when do you start to invest? It's like, well, you know, you have to also invest in yourself to get that money back too. So, you know, if you're ready to take that leap or take that step, but for somebody who's just starting out, or maybe they're like 19 years old and they are just moving to LA and, you know, they don't have the means to pay even $10 extra a month for that, ViscoCam's great. But if you don't even allow for that kind of preset, like if you're just like, oh, you have to have Adobe first though. It's like, we've just eliminated so many people who could be benefiting from this greatly.
And also, not to bash on, like, Peter McKinnon actually does tutorials. So he actually does teach people how to do it too. So like, just to clarify, like this preset is good. Like it's worth the money. Like definitely I got it. So I definitely think it's worth it. But I'm just saying more so in the aspect of like, people put out things and they're like, well, here's the paywall. Like, I'm not going to tell you about this. I'm not going to teach you this. I'm not going to talk about it. You have to pay for it.
Yeah. And I think, and that kind of ties into Injili. I'm going to talk about Injili all the time. She also studied under Gary V as well. But she her podcast, if you want to start anything, like honestly, if you want to start anything, start with episode 1 of her podcast. And she gives so much, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of valuable content for free $99.
Dude, that's what it's all is.
And then she also has her programs. You know, she does have her niche course. She does have her mentorship program where she does dive a little bit further in, but it's no secret information that she's withholding in that she's not giving to you on the podcast. Right. It's just that this is a condensed version that will really help you take it to the next level.
Exactly. And the mentorship thing, that is where you should charge.
Yeah.
Charge for your time. Charge for consultations. Charge for people to actually talk with you, right? But for the tools, it's like, you know, like I said, it makes more sense to me to make it on a donation basis. Like, you don't have to buy this for $30, but like if you have $1 and you want to throw $1 because you support this and you really like it, boom, throw $1. If you don't have anything and you just want to download it, there you go. You know, it's like,
there it is.
I operate on karma is ultimately what it comes down to, because you don't know what someone's going to turn into. You know, like a lot can happen in a year, let alone 10 years.
Yeah.
And like, what happens if you're addicted to somebody and you charge them all this money and you like make them feel like they can't do it on their own. And then 10 years later, they're like a million times better than you. Like, and that's karma comes back around, and then they don't want to operate with you because like they remember, oh, well, you know, you were just money hungry. That's all you wanted. You weren't interested in like sharing your message and sharing what you're doing. It's like you're interested in making a profit off of me, and I'm not interested in making a profit off of the people that listen to my content.
Yeah, and when that I feel like that goal or that vision or purpose gets lost because you're worried about the money, you'll lose the money because you're not building what you were saying, like we're not building that legacy. Yeah. You're not building because you're not following that purpose anymore. Your purpose has gone straight to dollar value. Granted, we all have to survive.
Exactly.
But if money is your sole purpose, like your soul, like what you are hungry for, there are way easier ways to make money.
I mean, you do realize 200 years ago, people didn't trade with money, right?
Yeah. No, it's just like a total barter system. Like value. Yeah. No, values. It's what you needed.
Yeah. Money was a way that the corporate industrial revolution was able to push jobs. Because again, like 200 years ago, the concept of obviously there was money, there was, you know, like paper and money and like currency and all that stuff. But people had professions. They had things that they had to barter with and trade with. And like early colonization of America was all about bartering and trading and what you can offer value wise to someone else, so that they could give you their value in return. Yep. It was all about that. And like, you know, I could understand, like, for example, the way that Peter does it, I understand that, like, that's a good model as well. Like outside of the donation model, the model that he does is, if you want to take the time to do this on your own, here's these videos. Go ahead, spend the next 5 hours learning how to do it on your own, and then spend the next 3 hours making it. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. You know, if you don't want to spend 8 hours though, that's where you spend the money on getting the preset. You know, like when you get to the level, like, not that I'm at like a level, but like when you get to the level that like I'm at right now, like I have the money. I have the money to invest in my stuff to save time and to make efficiencies. And so like I buy those things because I don't want to spend the 8 hours. I can, because I learned how to. Yeah. And whenever I was starting out, I only did my own stuff. I only did it all on my own. Like I made my own presets and like had this whole thing. But like as I grew, it was like, okay, well, it's just more efficient to put some money into this instead of spending the time. You know, and that's where it comes down to, is like, it's not that it's I just want to clarify for anyone listening. It's not that I have a problem with charging for things and putting things out there. I have a problem whenever that's the only way to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good clarification. Yeah. And I should throw it out there that's how I feel too.
Your thing, you make money, you put it out there, and if people are, like, for lack of a better term, lazy and they don't want to do the time, you know, put it in, it makes sense to charge for that. That's 100% accurate. Like,
and your time is valuable too, right? Absolutely. Like, so, like, you know, if, like, don't ever feel like, oh, well, you know, I should probably give this for free because then you get into your own worth kind of situations. Exactly. And that's also not where you want to be either. Yeah. And you have to, you know, I work with so many creatives who are like, oh, well, I usually charge this, but like, it's fine. And it's like, no, it's not fine. Like, if you charge that, like, let's work with that, because that's what you charge and that's what your work is worth to you. And it could be worth, anywhere from $40 to $3,000, depending on how you feel your worth is and depending on what people see the value in that content. But I think that when we're talking about creating content, Peter McKinnon is a great example. So I'm just going to keep using him. But Injili is the same way. It's like, here it all is. It's all laid out if you want to take that time, like you were saying. And that's what I did when I started my podcast. I didn't know how to start a podcast. I didn't even know where to begin. And so I just $3.99 Google, like,
YouTube
how do
is
we
your friend.
do this? YouTube is your friend. Like, use YouTube for like anything you need to, like how to tie a tie. I had to figure that out. Thank God for YouTube, because that was a disaster.
Well, that's why I didn't go to college.
But
I didn't see a reason for it, because I spent 3 years basically getting trained by YouTube. Because where everybody else puts music in their ears and they zone out for the 8 hours, I was like, wait a second. I have 8 hours where I'm just doing websites and social media and all this stuff, which is teaching me how social media works in general, because my job function is to make businesses successful on social media. So I'm learning that aspect by physically doing it. But then I learned the creative aspect, because instead of watching a video, I've got headphones in with a little video in the corner that's like how to color grade, how to edit, how to shoot, how to batch, how to do podcasts, how to whatever. And literally you could go on YouTube and literally type in how to blank. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want, it's there.
And if it's not there, make a video about it.
Yeah, because
learn how to do it and make a video about it. Yeah, because I guarantee that's the easiest way to make a viral video is if you look something up, you type in how to blank and there's nothing, immediately start making content about that. Like that, you found it. You go figure out how to do it and you make content, because that will be successful.
and then that goes into niche. Like if you want a really successful or niche, you can follow whichever one you want. But if you're really looking for a lot of followers and not even a lot of followers, but a lot of engagement, make it so specific. The most successful people I know are slime videos. There weren't any, and I'm going to make them. And then all of a sudden, that's a thing now. But so that's why I'm thinking of it. But it's I'm going to show people how to make this. And then I'm going to just do videos of me poking this slime. And then it's just people love it. Yeah. And it's that's all they do, that's all you do. And then you can, sell your own labeled products with it or whatever you want to do. But you can build literally a whole business around slime. Yeah. And it's you can do that with anything. Yeah. But you do kind of have to be polarizing.
Absolutely. I think that a note on that, though, I do think it's super important, though, to remember to build out yourself as a personal brand. Yeah. Not as a business. It is important. You can have a business, you can have your thing, whatever, but I think you will be 100% more successful putting it out under your name as opposed to
slime video
X marking or slime X or whatever. It's if you make a video that's slime X Weekly and that's your YouTube channel and that works for you, cool. But here's the thing: if you ever decide that you don't want to do slime videos later, or the trend dies off, then what are you gonna do? You're the slime guy, so now you gotta start from scratch.
So true.
You gotta make a whole new channel and start over. But if you're doing it as a personal brand, then it's you can just put out a video. It's hey guys, what's up? I'm gonna do this now. Yeah. Because this is me. This is who I am. This is the thing I'm interested in. I'm in this atmosphere. It's whenever you come at it from that perspective, going back to the legacy thing, I think that that's the most important part about social media that people don't really understand, is that they're thinking of the short-term gain that they can get from it. It's okay, well, what can I get now? What can I get within the next year? What can I get within the next 5 years? But when you zoom out and you look at things from the greater perspective, all the history books, you look at let's go back to Greco-Roman, culture and stuff. They had the Library of Alexandria, right? That whole library burned down. So it's just, I don't know. I just think it's super important to focus on those things, your
own personal brand. And also people, slime video, whatever. But like, if it's you, like you're the one talking, and then you're like,
exactly.
People connect to you. They don't connect to slime.
Yeah.
So I should make sure that I put that in there. But yeah, it's like people are connecting to you. People are connecting. And also something that hit me when you were talking about the 1.1 million followers back in that conversation. That doesn't, just because you have 1.1 million followers doesn't mean you have $1.1 million. It doesn't mean that you it doesn't mean that people because people don't connect to perfection.
Yeah.
They connect to your person. They connect to your personality. They connect to your struggles or your flaws, really. That's what people connect to. They don't connect to perfection.
Yeah.
And so when you're building that personal brand, it's personal. Like you have to just allow yourself to be a little vulnerable there.
Absolutely.
And people really connect to that. And when you can build those relationships, community and connection, that's when you start to really build something that's lasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that I do it is I kind of think about it from this perspective. Let's say, I'm not going to say 200 years because scientifically, like that, I could still be alive in 200 years the way that medicine's going. Because right now it's like 150 for our generation. So it's like another 50 years within the next 150 years is not unattainable. That sounds actually realistic. So let's just say like 500 years from now. Right. There's probably no chance I'm still going to be alive. I wouldn't think unless they like upload your consciousness to something or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think that we would be alive in 500 years, but like your great grandchildren that are walking on the planet at that time will never know you. They'll never see you. But because you were putting out content that was authentic to who you are, the way that I do it is it all goes through this perspective of those people that way far out lineage can know me better than the people walking on the planet today. The people that I just pass in the street and I never actually have a conversation with, but they actually had a chance to see me and to physically interact with me. But because of the authenticity of that legacy, they'll be able to know me. They'll be able to understand me. They'll see my struggles. And this, I actually wrote this down earlier whenever I was listening to your podcast about the imposter syndrome thing. So you don't have to learn from your own experiences. Like whenever I was a kid, I was super into like the whole Christian faith thing and like all of that stuff. And one of the things it talks about is that only a foolish man learns from their own mistakes. Like a wise person will look at the mistakes and the failures of other people and learn from that so that they don't have to make those mistakes. Every new generation of creator, it should be so much easier for you. The reason why anyone can succeed right now is because all of these generations of people have come before you and they've already worked out the kinks. And I mean, sure, if you want to ignore them and think that you know better, then like you'll make the mistakes on your own and you'll figure it out on your own. But like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to experience an abusive parent to understand the mentality that is shaped from having an abusive parent. You watch someone's content like mine, you understand that like, okay, cool. So this happened, this mindset came out of it. So I need to be this mindset to have this result. And so like, you don't have to experience the pain in order to have the product on the outside of it. And I think that's super important to like understand that you, like I said, you don't have to make the mistakes on your own to learn from them. Like you're going to have your own failures. I'm not saying that things are going to work perfectly for you, but it should be significantly easier and you should have significantly less failures than the people that came before you, because that's why they're making content. Ultimately, people put their stuff out there so that other people don't have to deal with it, don't have to experience it.
So true. And I think that when we can just listen, I think listening is something that it's a skill I've had to learn. But if you can listen to people and you can listen to their stories and you can listen to, like you said, what come out of it, you might come across something similar and be like, oh, well, they got over it this way. Let me try it this way first. And if it doesn't work for you, you can try a different way. But you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You can, they started here, you can start here. You can start at a whole other level than somebody who started before you, especially in the same field. And a lot of, a lot of personal connections and marketing and things like that, they are across the board the same. And mindset shifts and abundance and all of those things, they can be applied to anybody, anybody for anything, so it's not just that narrow, like one thing that you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that all comes back, like just doing a little bit of a throwback to earlier conversation. Is people focus on the distribution vehicle.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. That is going to change.
Yeah.
Like the thing that matters is the mindset behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they doing it? What made them start?
Mm-hmm.
And where do they plan to go?
Yeah.
So you answer those 3 questions about someone and you just keep asking people that. You keep understanding, and not just asking, but you actually take the time to understand it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, there are certain perspectives you're not going to be able to understand.
Mm-hmm.
That just comes down to it. You can empathize and you can try to connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, like, there are perspectives that you will never understand because you didn't experience it. And so it just doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah.
Whenever Mary Alita and I first got together, there were a lot of things that like she didn't understand about the way that I was raised, about the way that my parents treated us, and like the way that I raised my brothers and stuff. Like there were a lot of like things that she was like, okay, cool. Like I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I see like what you're doing, but like you can't completely connect with, you can't completely grab onto that at first because it's like, well, I had this entirely different experience with like all this support and all of this stuff. And it's like, I also think there's a beauty too in talking to different people like that have those different experiences than you, because I think that the only way that you can really understand the world is to understand that every single person makes up the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, and like, I was talking to this dude going back to Vid Summit again. It was so amazing. I freaking loved it. I loved it. An amazing. It was awesome. I definitely recommend you go next year. The tickets are kind of expensive, but if you start saving now, it's like $700-800 ticket or something like that here in LA.
Okay.
So and it's in October. So like if you would have been here this week, like. That's what the week was. So just middle of October, just so you know. But I was talking, what was his name? Marshall, I think. Yeah, Marshall. What were we just talking about again? I was trying to remember his name and I kind of lost my train of thought.
Vid Summit and, oh man.
It's okay.
Like I was like, Vid Summit, it sounds amazing.
I know. I started remembering Vid Summit, like all the things, and I'm like,
We're talking about the vehicle. It's not about the how. It's if you keep asking those people those questions. Oh, and then your experience. You were talking about experience and how some people can empathize with it, but it's not. It's not always they're not always going to see it exactly the way you do. And then you were talking about, I just had it. And then I was like on that thought. People, it takes
everyone in the world. That's what it was. Yeah. That's what it was. Okay. Yeah. We finally got there, guys. Sorry about that. Woo. So we were talking about like, what if you were born in Israel? Mm-hmm. What if you were born in Saudi Arabia? What if you were born in Russia? Mm-hmm. Your entire existence would be different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like everything that you are, like, sure, you have your soul or your spirit or whatever you want to call it, that is like the energy that makes you up, and you have your own ideas, and the things come from you from like outside forces or whatever, like inside, like whatever your beliefs are, like things come to you, and then you have your experiences, and then the things that you learn, right? There are 3 assets that make up who you are. Mm-hmm. None of those things stand by themselves. Mm-hmm. But if you were born in Soviet Russia, then the concept of America is like what we think about them. Like, whenever we're like, oh, the Russians are invading our elections, and they're trying to make communism spread across the planet, and communism is so bad, or whatever. Yeah. But the communists are like, oh, capitalism, it's so bad. Capitalism, it makes people greedy. Oh, capitalism, it makes people into bad people. Like, the different perspective, it's literally just the perspective of where you live and how you grew up.
Yeah, and what you're surrounded with.
Yeah. And it's like all of those people make up the world. All of those opinions, all of those ideas And that is the place that we live in. It's not a battle. You don't have to put, someone else doesn't have to lose in order for you to win. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of the internet. Mm-hmm. 50 years ago, that was the case, 100%. In order for you to win, someone else had to lose because everything was physical. Mm-hmm. So in order for us to connect, in the past, right, I would have physically had to have met you, set up the time, and then, put it away or whatever.
Yeah.
And physically, when you take up someone's time like that, literally someone else has to lose. I have to take you away from whoever else could benefit from you in order to have that interaction.
Right.
And because of the internet, though, you could be connected to everyone simultaneously all the time.
Yeah.
And you build that legacy. Like I said, 500 years from now, my great-great-great-great-grandchildren will 100% understand me in the mindset that built the life that I hope that they will still be able to prosper from.
Yes.
So it's everything is – the internet changed the world. And I just don't think that people have caught up with the mindset yet of how it's changed the world.
Yeah.
It's all transparent. It's all empathetic. And if you're not being real – you're not going to succeed.
No.
And that, I know that's really kind of harsh to say, but if you're putting out a fake image, you will not succeed because people will find out
and they won't connect
and they will
to you.
blast it out.
Yeah.
And you will immediately lose everything you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at Harvey Weinstein. Did people expect that was going to come out? Did they expect that after all of those movies, after all of that creative work, after all of that success, just came crumbling down in a second?
Yeah.
Look at Bill Cosby. The mindset, he had this huge following of people, especially in my generation of people. It's growing up, you think he's the family man. It's I remember Bill Cosby and Family Matters, Steve Urkel and Full House and all those kinds of shows. I watched those almost daily whenever I was a kid. That shaped a lot of who I was, as a person. And to realize that disingenuous authenticity later on comes out, and then immediately all the credibility, all of that just gone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's what I said earlier, it comes down to people living in the moment and not living for legacy.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I think that too, you have it goes back to what you were saying about karma. You have to be a good, kind person.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to be kind, and it doesn't take much to be a good person. And it's so interesting too what you were saying about everyone has their own perspectives of nobody in their eyes is wrong. Everyone in their eyes is fighting the good fight.
Exactly.
And so you have to think about that.
Yeah.
You have to think about, and that's not my idea. That actually came from she was I think an FBI agent, and she was in Iraq or something. And then her biggest takeaway was that everyone believes they're the good guy.
Yeah. What is it? Is it Aristotle or Socrates? It says the only thing that is certain is that you know nothing.
Yeah. I don't remember who.
Maybe it's neither of those. It could be someone completely different. But one of the old philosophers said that, and that's one of the most prolific things that, is as a statement. It's so true. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
People 200 years ago, the concept of an airplane. People were bashing on the Wright brothers, saying, "You're an idiot. You're going to kill yourself. You're dumb. Stop. Don't do that. You can't fly. You're a human being, not a bird."
Yeah.
And guess what? How did you get to California again?
A flu.
Yeah. You were on an airplane.
Yeah. I got
one of the safest ways to travel on the planet. Safer than a car.
Yeah.
Safer than a boat. And at one point, it was impossible.
Yeah.
At one point, the world was flat. And if you sailed too far, you fell off. And now we have America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And guess what? There were already people there.
Yeah.
That had their perspective and their reality, which they didn't know that there was this other side. There was Europe. There was all this other, there's perspectives. And it's you have to understand that, there is no right and wrong. it's just what there is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I was talking to somebody, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, and he had just recently gone to Peru and he did like the ayahuasca retreat thing. Mm-hmm. And he said that one of the things that he got out of it was, it's like from his perspective, he like zoomed outside of the scope of the universe, right? So he was looking at all of it. Like, you know, if you were God, then like being able to be out, you know, obviously it's not possible to be outside of infinity, but if it were, like the concept of being outside of that universe, he said he looked at it and, you know, whether it was himself or an entity or whatever, you know, whatever that is, you know, whatever that experience is, told him that he was like, look, this is it. This is all of it. And it's perfect. You know, it's like there's this perfect balance. And, you know, although to one person you may be evil and to another you may be good, those are opposing forces that drive life forward. They drive new ideas. They drive new creations. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that it's good for the perspective of the people that have to deal with the pain. That's not a good thing. That sucks for them, and it's really bad. I feel for them. I have empathy for them. But ultimately, when you think of things from a greater perspective, every bad thing, every bad tragedy has led to something amazing that would not exist without that tragedy. World War II brought out most of the technology that we have. Like, what Hitler did was terrible. You know, he killed a lot of people. And there's a lot of people whose literally their entire family line was snuffed out. And that's sad. That sucks. Like, there's a lot of legacy and culture that was lost because of that. But at the same time, a line was drawn in the sand. And people as a whole came to the understanding that this whole war thing is bullshit. People are like, obviously there's still been wars, but people have come to the understanding it's just a money thing. Like, people are doing this to make money or to take things from other people that they didn't make for themselves. And they drew a line in the sand. And ever since then, that's why, what's it called? Like, where all the countries come together. What's it called? UN. The UN. Yeah. The UN. That is how that came to be.
Yeah.
Where, like, beforehand, all these countries operated on their own. But because of World War II, every single country talks to each other. And comes to things that are good for the planet, not good for their country. Yeah. Because, like, we're all in this together and we all have our own stories and our own perspectives. So every bad thing has a good thing that comes out of it.
Like a silver lining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I like to say that adversity is our greatest strength as human beings. 100%. Because it's the only way that you can move forward. If everything just worked out for you, always... Yeah. And like, from your perspective, like whatever you think is right or whatever you think is good just was always the case. What would be the point? Yeah, there's no growth. Like, it would just, like, why? I don't even see the point of existence at that point. Like, if everything just worked, like, from the beginning, obviously I'm not saying like you're born and then like you have your struggles. It's like, it's not even something that I can perceive in my brain, because literally the world does not work like that. You know, before you can walk, you have to fall on your face. Yeah, a lot. Yeah. You know? Yeah, and then a baby's not going to just be like, oh, well, I fell, so I guess I'm not going to try that again. Like, no, they just keep going, because that's what you're supposed to do until you can walk, right? Yeah. So I think that when we're talking about even business or something like that, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Yeah. And that's part of the process. That's nature. Yeah. Is to fail. And then failure is not a bad thing. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, it's not a bad thing. I think they need to come up with a new word for failure. Actually. Yeah, because it just has like such a bad connotation to it, and it's part of the process. Yeah. Like, if you think that Oprah didn't at one point fail, or Tony Robbins didn't at one point fail, or, you know, like, we wouldn't have light. If Edison didn't fail. Yeah. Right? It's like, it's funny because some people would say he failed because it, you know, obviously like his science experiment with the, with the kite or whatever that made it happen. He was not trying to create electricity. Yeah. He was trying to do something else. Yeah. To some people, that's a failure. Right. But it made electricity. So is it really a failure? Or, you know, like it's all perspective. Like, when you realize that a failure is not actually a failure is a learning opportunity. I think that's when you start to grow.
Yeah.
Because everything that happens pushes you in the forward direction. You know, if something doesn't work, then, you know, okay, cool, don't do that and I'll be more successful.
Yeah.
If something does work, you know, okay, do that and I'll be more successful. Either way, you learn something.
You learn something.
And you can then go and make tomorrow better.
Yeah. And the wise person will take those failures and run with it and like assess and move forward. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key. And the only difference between somebody who's just starting out and somebody who's quote unquote made it is not giving up, like time.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just, that's it. Like,
well, how do you know that, like, let's say you live to be 50, which is really small, but just for sake of numbers, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you live to be 50 and at 49, you're like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I quit. Right. And then literally between the age of 49 and 50, you would have had success.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's say that 6 months into your, you know, you turn 49, 6 months later, let's just go back to the slime analogy.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Let's say you love slime, but nobody cares about slime. Like, it's not popular yet. It's not a niche thing. Yeah. Obviously, like, it went from being this weird thing that you do in school and, like, biology when they teach you about, like, how the things come together to make the slime or whatever as a science experiment. Yeah. That's how I remember being introduced to, like, slime and, like, doing it. It was in school.
Yeah.
It goes from being that to, like, this huge fad that now it's all over the internet and people care about it. And it's like, oh, this big thing, like, all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? That happens overnight, but it's a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the people that have been constantly putting in that content, constantly putting in that work, when the attention shifts, like you said, there's seasons for everything.
Yeah.
Whenever the attention shifts to that, then they see this huge backlog of, like, information and this huge, like, repertoire of, like, stuff that they can look at and that they can engage with. And if you quit, then it's gone. Like, you don't have that. There is that engagement is gone, you know? So it's like the person that gives up in it's the final quarter, you know, like most games are won in the final quarter, you know, like you can be down 50 points and come back and win.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's so true. And it's the final quarter. I love that analogy because I think that it's always the way. And if you want to call it God, you want to call it universe, whatever, it's always the way that the second you hit the most resistance is just the tipping point to when you're about to level up. And so it's like recognizing that. And that was something that I didn't learn. That was something that somebody else failed and learned for me and I took. Yeah. But it's true. It's like the second you hit that point, it's like that's the tipping point. And it's really just the test of, like, do you have what it takes? Or are you going to keep going?
Yeah.
And that's when you see the success in that way.
Yeah.
You could be successful anytime, really, but successful in that way. And it's just you just cannot give up.
Yeah. What about all those 80s musicians that, like, they never gave up? They kept doing music, even though back in the day, in the actual 80s, nobody cared. They didn't like their music. It was like that rock music. I don't want to listen to that. That's loud. I don't like it. You know. And in the 90s, whenever, like, the whole screamo thing came out, it was like, I don't like that. And then in 2010, all the kids that grew up were like, yeah, screamo, that's awesome. But because those guys didn't stop, boom, they became popular. That's why Steven Tyler is still traveling the world right now, doing music. Like, because, I mean, that's not a great example because he was big back then. You know, obviously, like, his music did take off and do well back then, but not nearly as good as it does now. And the reason for that is nostalgia. People care about nostalgia. They always will look back to the past because the way your brain operates is you will always kind of change the memory, you know. So it's like every time you talk about something, you'll add a detail to it as a human being. And it's not a bad thing. It's just how your brain works. Like, you'll add another detail that may or may not have actually happened to make it sound more entertaining, to, like, appeal to the audience that you're specifically talking about. You know, you'll kind of adapt it and change it over time. But in your brain, that solidifies and that becomes the new memory every single time. Yeah. So it's like whenever you stay consistent with it, you like I was saying, you can just have it pop up, the 10-year overnight success. You know, you can be putting in all this work and see absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, this is the most popular thing on the planet and everybody loves you. Like,
One of my favorite quotes is, sometimes it takes 10 years for that 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
Then it's true. Sometimes it takes 10 years. And that's why money can't be that end all be all objective. Because if it's just for money, that's, you're going to quit, because there's other ways to make money.
Yeah.
There's other ways. But if you're passion driven, if you're purpose driven, you're not going to give up on that.
Absolutely.
You're not going to give up on that, because that's in your core. That's something that's drawing you. That's something that's moving you and motivating you. And if it's money, it's like, well, I could apply to Starbucks today and get a job and get money.
You can follow the Gary Vee flip thing.
Yeah.
Literally go on Craigslist, get a bunch of free shit, put it on eBay. Then once you have about $50 to $100, buy shit on eBay that's on auction for like 25 cents to $5, flip it on Amazon for full price. And then you get more money from that, and then you buy more things on eBay for cheap, sell more things on Amazon for full price. Like, you take something that's worth $50 that's gotten bid down to $10, you win the bid, you only paid $10 for it, you flip it on Amazon for $50. Yeah. You just made $40. It's way easier than people think. Like, way easier. There's no reason why anyone should, like, it's a bit presumptuous to say this, but like, legitimately, if you have a cell phone, there's no reason why you should be struggling for money at all. Because it's just a time thing, and it's just an effort thing. And it's like, that is a bit harsh to say. I understand that. There's probably some cringe going on there on you guys listening to this, but like, ultimately, like, that's the truth. And it's sad. Like, that's what it comes down to, is it's that easy. People just don't think about it. Like, it is that easy. I got a 4K TV for free because some rich dude in Laguna Beach was like, yo, I'm throwing this in the dumpster in an hour. Come pick it up if you want it. What? And I happened to get on Craigslist, and I was like, yo, I need a new TV. What's up, bro? I'm coming. Let me get that. And then I got there, and I was like, why were you just giving this away? And he was like, I was going to throw it in a dumpster because I just bought a new TV.
Okay.
And it's like, so you didn't want to like sell it or like make some money on it?
Because it's time. Like, there gets to a point where if you're that rich, clearly he's got other things to do that it's not worth it to him.
Absolutely.
And worth changes as you grow too, and as your time becomes the really valuable thing.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't worth it to him. It was easier for him to just throw it up there and say, here's this, I don't know, like $2,000 TV or something. Yeah. It's probably more expensive than that. But here's this $2,000, my time to like put a dollar value on that Craigslist ad. It was far more expensive to him for that like extra hour of his time. To like put in
time and be like, what can I get for this?
Like, he must be worth like $3,000-$4,000 an hour then. Yeah. At least, to just do that. Yeah. And I think that it's hard when we're not in that money space, like to conceptualize that. At least for me, it is. But it's true. It's like, well, get a free TV. Yeah, and it's like, and if I was struggling for money at the time, I could have flipped it, sold it for full price, and then probably went on like Let Go or something and bought a TV for like $50. Yeah, and that's a thing you can do. You go on, like I said, go on Craigslist. You're always like, you want to scale it up. If you're following this, you definitely want to scale it up. Like, you go on Craigslist, you get one thing for free, and then sell that for full price. Yeah. And then you can go and like, go on something like Let Go or like even Craigslist still or OfferUp or whatever, and just get it for super cheap, right? And then like the one that you keep for yourself is super cheap, right? Because you took the free one, made a huge profit on it, and then you take a little tiny chunk of that profit to actually get the thing that you wanted. Yeah. It's like it all is just this whole value system. That's what Girl Boss, she wrote the book Girl Boss. She's the CEO of Nasty Gal. I don't know if she is anymore, but her name's Sophia Amoruso, I think. But that's what she did. So she was a thrifter.
I think I've heard of her before.
Yeah, she's a thrifter. And then she started this brand called Nasty Gal, and it was back when eBay was like a big thing. And she was just like, here's a really cool vintage piece. And then she just...
I do know who that is.
Yeah, she just knocked up the price, and that's how she created her $1 million brand.
She rebranded it. I think, if I remember correctly, she like would take good pictures with the thing, and that's how she made the money. She made it appealing.
She made it like a boutique.
Yeah, instead of it being like this shirt that's just thrown on a couch, which is what most people do. Yeah. She would like put it on a model or put it on like this, like have background, like little stuff that makes the picture look really good. Yeah. And then the same thing that she spent like $2 for because some Craigslist person was like threw it on a table or garage sale or whatever. She just like rebranded it basically. Yeah. And made it look good. And it was like, all right, cool. Now it's worth $50. What's up?
One man's trash is another man's treasure. Yeah. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts, since your mindset's like money is so accessible, like you can do this, you can flip this, and I agree, like there are ways to make money and be really creative with that. Why do you think that some people take it and run with it and others don't?
Fear versus faith. I think some people have little faith in their own ability to provide for themselves, and they've been told that they have to have a job to succeed. They've been told that they have to go to college to succeed. They've been told that you have to do this, you have to do that, and if you don't have this, then you're a failure. And then they tell themselves that they're a failure, so they never take action. It's like I was saying in the beginning of this. So if you look at 100% of people, like everyone on the planet, right? There is only about 4% of people that actually take action on the things they believe in. Yeah. So when you say, and that's where I was getting the 50%, right? So if 4% take action and 2% are successful, quote unquote, because success is relative. Yeah. In reality, 50% of people are successful because there's only the 4% that are actually doing anything. You can't put 96% of people that do nothing and compare that to someone that's doing something. That it's not the same thing. It's apples and oranges. Like the numbers are just going to get convoluted because it's not connected. You have to understand that like success, like having financial stability, in my opinion, is 100% a mindset. Like you may struggle. That is a thing. 100%. Like maybe you lost your job and you don't have any savings. And so like immediately you start defaulting on bills. You start going into the hole. Like things start looking bad. Your options, you can sit around and you can think about it and you can sulk and you can sit on your couch and you can feel bad until the guy comes and evicts you. Or you can spend the next 30 days, even if you got evicted, they have to give you 30 to 6, like, what is it? Like 30 days to 6 months, depending on where you live. Like if you live in New York, I think they have to give you like a 3 to 6 month notice before you even have to like actually get kicked out kind of thing. You're like, so it's like all these people where their stuff is just on the street. It's not like they just came home and they randomly were just like, oh, you don't live here anymore. Like they knew that was going to happen. Like what did you do for the 30 days leading up to that? Yeah. Did you sit around and think about ways that could be successful, or did you go online, or did you, like I said, go and flip stuff? Yeah. Like go in, I mean, if you wanted to do the begging option, you could always do that. Like I've never done that or anything like that. But like if you're a musician, you could literally just open up a guitar case and go play on the street, try to make some money, do something to get a little bit of something. And ultimately, I just don't think people believe that they can do it. Yeah. It's like they don't think about that as an option. It's like I said, they've been told they have to have a job. So the concept of going and getting free stuff on Craigslist and selling it and making a full-time income out of that, like you can make 6 figures out of that, no problem. Yeah. It's called retail espionage or something like that. I think, retail espionage. I think that's what it's called. And like, that's an actual thing. There's people that have businesses where their whole concept is they buy like return crates from Amazon. They buy stuff cheap on eBay. And like I said, they flip it for full price. Yeah. And that's their business model. Yeah. And they make tons of money off of it. And they will continue to always make tons of money off of it because like, that's how it works. Yeah. 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 And people are always in want for stuff. So, and if you can make it valuable, like Sophia did. Yeah. 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 So like, I'm curious. I want to talk about messy bun, messy action. Yeah. Because I know we talked about your podcast. We didn't talk about that yet. Why did you start doing all this? Why did I start doing all of this? So like, why do you not just go clock in and call it a day? I can't.
I physically can't. I mean, I can do anything I put my mind to, but I tried that for 11 years. Mm-hmm. So been paying my way through school. I graduated with a 2-year associate's program from the Fashion Institute in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I felt at that point like I was done with school. Yeah. I felt like I was done and I didn't need any more. And I knew that I could do it if I just knew what it was that I wanted to do. But I was so afraid of taking that step. Mm-hmm. I was so afraid of exploring options that I was like, well, I'm making money at this grocery store. We'll see where it takes me, and I'm going to do the traditional route because that's what I was fed. Right. I was like, the money mindset in our household is lack and fear. Like,
yeah, same.
It was just like.
My family thinks I'm an idiot for the things I did, but now it's like, I mean, not, without getting into the numbers, I make more than my dad. Like my dad was boasting about how much he makes a year, but he works like 80 hours a week. And whenever he was here last year, he was telling me how much he made in the year, and I make more than he does. And I work like 20 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
see, it's when that's what you're fed and that's what you grow up with, that's what you start to do. And I just realized I was like, I need to keep moving. I'm a really active person. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point where, and then I was going to school. And I hated school, and school's not my thing. If I wasn't so far along at this point, I would have quit. Yeah. But if I were to tell anything to my younger self, it's like, look, if you know that piece of paper isn't going to do anything for your degree, like mm-hmm. if your degree isn't going to do anything for the job that you set out to do, because mm-hmm.
that
you're going to be creative. Don't bother.
Yeah.
Go back later if you really feel like that's something you want to accomplish. Yeah. But I dragged my own self through the mud, kicking and screaming to get this degree. And
because you had been told that you had to.
So I was told I had to. Yeah. Otherwise you were seen as nothing and nobody and not successful. And I mean, there was one point where one of my family members was like, if you work for an hourly wage, like you don't have a real job, mm-hmm. So it's like a very elitist mindset.
Right.
And so go to school. And yeah, I realized I was like, well, I hit a wall. It was like, I am so driven to do something, mm-hmm. and I can no longer sit comfortably in my own skin.
Yeah.
It was just like that. It was that big of a pull. And so I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to get a success coach because clearly I need outside help. I've been trying for 11 years and not getting anywhere doing anything.
Right.
And
I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Because the same brain that got you into a situation cannot get you out of it because you will mm-hmm. only think of things through the same guise that got you there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying earlier when I was answering your question about people that believe that they can't and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that another point on that is they don't get outside help. They only mm-hmm. rely on their own intuition mm-hmm. when if it's not working and things are failing, ask for help.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask for money to ask for help. You can say, hey, I noticed that you're really not stressed ever. You seem all the time happy. What are you doing?
Yeah. And
how do you do it?
Yeah.
It's like, someone like Gary Vee, whenever he was just starting out in the wine, when the wine business and moving over and everything, when he started doing the business stuff, nobody listened to him or had any intuition to what he was doing, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But he had found out through his experiences with other professionals how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And so, yes. And so with the Messy Fun, Messy Action, that really came from realizing that I saw massive shifts when I started the podcast. I mean, mm-hmm. it's only been about 4 or 5 months now. And, over 2,000 downloads, really starting to build that community. And it's just really realizing that I was waiting 11 years for perfect to start.
Yeah.
And that's...
Oh yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You're never going to get to a perfect.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're waiting for, you're going to die before you get there.
I think waiting in general.
Yeah, waiting in general. There's no point. There's no point to wait. There's nothing. You're waiting because you're scared. I was waiting because I was scared. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I have to take a leap of faith here because if I have to, I'm working in retail. And I actually just quit my job, but So I was working in retail, and I was like, if I have to help one more person or who's like screaming at me for something I didn't do, like I will combust. Like I was
100% agree.
I can't do this anymore. I can't help people in this way. And it was actually changing me. I thought I was an introvert for so long, and I'm actually really extroverted, but it was just how I was helping people that was draining me.
Yeah.
And
same.
so
I was a manager for one of the youngest managers actually for Journeys.
Right? Yeah, I watched your YouTube. So
nice.
Yeah. So it was like, if I have to do this one more day, like I will combust. And so that was also another driving force.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, you know, the messy bun is just like throw your hair up in a bun and do it. And I mean, my hair is down right now, but it's usually up in some sort of weird messy bun.
Yeah.
And so that's just my own like personal touch to it. But really, it's just about taking that messy action. Like, you will see massive shifts in your business, in your life, in your careers, in your relationships if you just try. If you just go for it and you just unapologetically like go for it.
The only way to secure that you will not succeed is to not start.
Yes.
That's the only way that you will 100% fail.
Yes. So I have so much empathy for that little girl in me who is like, you know, 18 and already, where would I be right now? Like 10 years. Like it's basically been 10, 11 years. It's like, where would I be had I started then? Had I had somebody to mentor me, to tell me, like, there's other options and there's other ways here. Let's see if we can get you the confidence you need to get to that point. And so that's really what the brand is all about.
Right.
Is taking that messy action and giving people that vote of confidence, that permission slip. But it's really just a permission slip that I was looking for to do it. And so that's what the brand is about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I think a big thing on that is that it's, I don't know what the right word is. I'm going to use the word pretentious because that seems like the right word. It's very pretentious to assume that you're going to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
You only have right now. You're breathing oxygen right now.
Yep.
Like, what happens if you, and I think I have this perspective because I have what I call life dreams, right? So I don't really have weird dreams that are like non-realistic. Every dream I've ever had that I like remember having, and I usually remember my dreams every night, is that they're super real. It's like life. It's like real life. And it takes me a minute to realize it's a dream. Like when I wake up in the morning, sometimes I actually will lay there and stare at the ceiling and be like, wait a second. Okay. I don't live in Rome. Whoa. Okay. It's not the 17th century. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm Michael. It's 2018. Okay, cool. I'm up. Let's wake up. Because it's that real.
Wow.
Like I have literally, not so much anymore because I have Mary Alita. And so like, obviously I wake up and she's there. It kind of grounds me a little bit, you know, but especially when I was alone, I would like have these dreams that I was like married and had kids and these kind of things. And I would wake up and look next to me and there was no one there. And I would go into a panic because like I don't remember a name specifically, but like, let's just use like, I'll just use Jenna, for example.
Okay,
like, it's like, for example, like I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, where's Jenna? Oh shit. And I'm like, wait a second. Who the fuck is Jenna?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a second. That was a dream. What the hell? Because like, it's this weird, I don't know how to explain. I don't know why it happens the way it does, but like in my dream, like from so I'm just going to say from whenever it's a dream, like you have your perspective of like your life and stuff, you know, like real life, you'll get ready, go to bed, wake up, get ready, go to bed, wake up, you know, like you have these cycles and things that you do, that kind of stuff. I do that in a dream. Like I would actually go to bed and like wake up the next day and like live like for years at a time. And then I would wake up and I'm like, whoa, it's been a night. That was a dream. Okay, cool.
So wild.
Yeah.
And I mean, so, on a small scale, I had that, but it was always like my mom would wake me. I was a kid and she'd like wake me up to go to school. And then I'd fall back asleep and I'd dream I was getting ready. And then she'd like rip the covers off of me because it was time to go.
Yeah.
And I wasn't up. And she's like, get up. And I was like, I thought it was. I thought I was ready.
Yeah. So like from my perspective with having experienced that, like what happens if, I mean, not even just talking about death and like dying, you know, whatever happens when you die, but like, what if you woke up and everything you had lived and experienced up to this point was just a dream? Like you only have the moment that you're in right now.
Yeah.
And you can either make the most of that and do something like that will make you happy in that moment. That's why I said I only do things. I don't know if I said this before we aired or not, but I only do things that I am 100% passionate about.
Yeah.
Like if I literally don't feel my body vibrating kind of passion to do something, I will not do it.
That's a really great way to protect your creative genius too, and like protect that staying in that state. And I don't know if you've ever read Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap, but it talks a lot about that zone of genius and like staying there. And it's like if you're not like there's like the zone of competence, there's the zone of like incompetence. I'm not an academic, so I don't remember all of them, but and then the zone of genius, and like when you stay in that place, like as much as humanly possible, you are so much more creative. You are so much more like aligned with your purpose and your like, and it just all works.
And that's how I live it day to day to day. Because here's the thing: like, yes, it's important to reflect on your past so that you don't keep continuing the same mistakes. You know, like you got to say, like, okay, that didn't work. Why did that not work? What is the definition of not work for you? First off, you know, it's like, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? What would be better? Okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to do it this way next time. And like, you have to reflect on those things. But there's a difference between, yeah, no, that's how I said. I thought I mispronounced it for a second. I was like, did I just say that weird?
Yeah. When I'm really passionate, I start skipping my words and then messed up. Yeah.
There's a large difference in reflecting and mourning the past.
True.
You know?
Yes.
And you don't even, like I was saying earlier, you don't even know. This is kind of scary, to be honest with you, but like you don't even know that your memories are real. Like, because like I said, you constantly change them. Every time you think of a memory, you change something. Every single time. And over time, there's enough divulgence that the thing that actually happened and the thing that you remember are completely different from one another. And if you're constantly mourning the past, constantly looking back and letting that define who you are now, then you're all like, you don't even know that actually happened. You could literally be making up stories in your head and basing your entire existence off of that.
Yeah, it's so true. And also, like, when we're kids, I mean, a huge developmental time in our lives for our subconscious and like our beliefs in ourselves and our beliefs in the world come from when we were 8 to 10, 8 to 12.
Right.
And so like those are very simple thoughts we're having. It's like, oh, mom and dad are fighting over money. Money equals bad. Yeah. You know? And so it's like, then we grow up and we wonder why we're hitting an upper limit problem, or we're hitting like, why can't I get past this $28,000 mark? Why am I so stuck here? And it's like, oh, because I believe money is bad. Yeah. You know, it's like, so I don't want any more of it. Yeah. Why do I keep spending? Because I think money is bad. Yeah. You know, I'm going to and it was such a revelation for me when I realized like my 8 to 12-year-old self is really governing like my thoughts as a 27-year-old adult. Yeah. And like you have to take care of that child inside of you, because like that child doesn't go away. It's still there. That voice is in your head still. Yep. Most people just choose to ignore it and choose to like not give it a voice. They choose to suppress it and not take care of it. Yeah. And it's the same thing as if you had your own child and you just didn't take care of it, didn't give it attention. Yeah. It's gonna lash out. And that's where you're going to start to see these anxieties and see these mental failures. And that's what I mean when I say, you know what you want to be doing. Yeah. When you ask a kid, what do you want to do when you grow up? They know. Yeah, they 100% know. 100% know. Yeah. You know, and it's like I said, the distribution vehicle may change, but they know what they stand for and what they want to do with the world. Yep. I know. I always, when I first started, like the first thing I ever wanted to be was a teacher. And then I realized, oh, well, teachers don't make money. So and then I was driven by money for so long. And that's what kept me stuck too. Yeah. It's just like, well, I have to make money. Yeah. And teachers don't make enough money. And it's like, well, you can be a teacher at anything. Exactly. You don't have to be a teacher in the traditional sense if you don't want to. Yeah. And those are the kind of things that I think, you know, like we were saying, like the fear keeps us inside that box and without the ability to expand options. Right. So it's like you mourn the past, and that's a problem. You don't think about the future
that's a problem, as well as focusing on the future.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep in mind what your plans are. Keep in mind where the direction, the goal, the path, like if everything works out, this is going to happen, right? Yeah. It's important to have those goals and have those plans. Like you can't really succeed without it, because then you don't think of things in the greater scheme of things. If you only live in today all the way, 100% are just in this moment, you're not thinking of how things affect you on a greater scale. Kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about people that are just charging people now because they know right now they can get the money for it.
Yep.
They're not zooming out and thinking, okay, well, what if I look at like a 5 to 10 year scale of my work? Like that's why people like Philip DeFranco and Shane Dawson are still relevant right now, because the entire way they haven't been like, oh, let me shove this down your throat so I can get some money out of you. Let me see how I can profit off of my audience. It's all been based on their creative journey. And obviously they have their things like, Philip DeFranco has a really cool merch store, that he built and he put together. But even that is not you making money off of your audience, because he's making a cool shirt that can stand alone on its own.
Yeah.
It's like this shirt, you can buy this shirt and not even know who he is because it's cool.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like, that's a way that he was able to support himself, kind of a thing, So I think that when you mourn the past, it's bad. And when you don't think about the future at all, it's bad. But whenever you're focused on just the future, you're not doing anything today.
Yeah.
And the way that I live my life on a day-to-day basis is, I call it living for the me that wakes up in the morning. That's the way that I like to put it. And I say thank you to past me all the time, because every single day I'm awake for, 16 to 18 hours usually. I only sleep like about 6 hours a night, just not for any like reason. I'm not trying to like hustle and wake myself up or anything like that. It's just like I can't sleep at night because my brain is constantly has all these ideas, and I'm always thinking about everything on the back burner. It's just constantly rolling. So when I try to sleep at night, that's usually when my brain gets the most active until I finally get exhausted and pass out.
Yeah.
And then I'll just wake up. And when I wake up, I don't like try to roll back over and go to sleep. It's like I will open my eyes and I'm like, oh, I'm awake. All right, cool. Time to get up. It's like I'm not tired anymore, so I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something. And immediately when I wake up to the time that I'm too exhausted and I pass out, usually what happens is I'll be on my laptop. I have a show on Netflix or something like that, and I'm writing, or I'm putting out an outline, or like if I'll turn off the TV and start recording some stuff, or like right now we're doing an interview kind of thing on a Saturday when most people are just chilling, doing their thing, putting their feet up, doing whatever. But basically it's the thing that when I wake up in the morning, I want it to have an easier go than this morning. So this morning, whenever I woke up, this is actually a great example. So this morning when I woke up, I got up, took Hourly out for a walk, like took care of her, fed her, all that good stuff, got some breakfast, set up the studio, right? So it takes about an hour to set up everything and like tear it all down. Like, and whenever everything's said and done, one of my goals is to have a home, like have an actual home, not an apartment, but a home, so that I can have a room that is a studio that is always set up. That I don't have to tear it down and put it back up and tear it down and put it back up, right? Yep. So one of these days I'm going to do that. And like I'm going to get to that point and I'm going to have that studio, and it's going to be a thing that makes waking up tomorrow a lot easier than waking up today was, And right now I'm doing everything I can to make sure that when I wake up tomorrow, it's easier. Like right now I'm doing the podcast and the video series, and I'm writing. I had 2 books that I'm kind of writing, sort of back and forth. One of them's realistic fiction.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's like, it's basically like my life if things didn't work out. So like,
interesting.
I'm very good at like paying attention to things and seeing where the divergences are. And so basically like there's a lot of key things that happen to me where it could have gone one way or the other, and I chose the good way. Yeah. The positive way, like that was put me in a good mindset and a good zone. But I also could have gone very dark path. And so it basically explores the dark path and like what could have happened kind of thing.
Wow.
And then I'm also writing a nonfiction, which is just how to do what I do with anxiety. Like, how do you deal with it? Like, how do you get through that stuff? Like, how do you wake up in the morning and you feel like life doesn't want you to be on the planet anymore? How do you still get up and do it? It's realizing that, like I said, you only have right now. You only have this moment. And even, this is how I'll put it. So I've mentioned this quite a few times. So that's why I was thinking about do I want to say that again? But I think it's important enough to say again. It's the difference between being happy and being joyful. When you wake up in the morning, you have a chemical combustion in your brain. Your neurons are firing, and it makes you feel a certain way. There's a chemical balance in your body that creates a feeling of an emotion. It's not it could not be tied to anything. That's what depression is. It's something doesn't happen for you to feel depressed. It's you have all the emotions as if like someone came in front of you and held your dog up and shot it in the head. As an example. You have that level of depression, but it's just Tuesday. It's just Tuesday. That's it. And just out of nowhere, boom, the feeling comes out, right? And sure, it's not the easiest thing to get through that, but the best thing to do, the best way to get through that is to be joyful. So you're not happy, you're joyful. Joy is a choice. Happiness is a feeling. So when you choose to look at things positively, when you choose to do things that are going to help better you and help make tomorrow better for whatever that is, it doesn't matter if it's learning one new thing for your craft. It doesn't matter if it's connecting with someone. It doesn't matter if it could be anything. Anything at all. Anything that you do in that day that's not just zoning out and getting through to the next day because you want to make it to 5 years from now. Because that's ultimately what it comes down to. People don't live in the moment and they say, okay, well, I got 8 hours to be awake now. I just got off of work. I got 8 more hours, but I got to go to bed. We'll just put on some Netflix so that it's instant. And, they just pass the time. It's whenever you do things in that time, though, and you're making sure that maybe tomorrow you don't, you're one step closer to not having to go to work. Or you're one step closer to getting that promotion, or you're one step closer to like making that interaction with someone and like building up that confidence, whatever it is. It's just being aware of the future, reflecting on the past, but living in now.
Yes. Did you read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle?
Not yet. No, I've heard of it.
You're going to love it. I just started it. And there was this... It actually started off with saying, he's saying, I don't really ever think about the past, but I will for the sake of this book because you need to know where I was, you know, and it was this moment of serious, serious depression where he said, I don't want to live anymore. And then it was like something happened to him where he was like, well, who is the I in this situation? And it was like that would imply that there are two people in the works here. There's like the me, and then there's like the ego self, and so for the next like 6 months he like spent the day on the park bench and just living in the moment, in the now, and just like observing and just removing that I. And I was just like, that is, and it's like something that I had to reread over and over and over again, because I think it's a huge concept to grasp because it's really about blocking out that noise. It's about blocking out all of the negative self-talk. It's about blocking out all of the like, oh, I have to get the laundry. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do. It's just like shutting all of that down and really sitting and like, I'm healthy and I'm okay. And it's like, if you have those things, like there's a moment of joy there, because you're like, oh, well, I'm good. And so it's so true that I never separated joy and happiness that way, but you're right. And when you can live in the now, you can bring a lot more joy into your life. And it is important to look toward the future and have those goals and have a version of your life that you really want and you really want to have and will allow you to continue to do what you want. But if you only hold on to that, you're like suffocating it. It won't come true because you're so focused on
and
just
more than likely, that's not how it's going to play out.
Well, not. Yeah.
Like, that's
and it
a rough
sets expectations,
sketch,
right? It sets these expectations. It puts your future on this pedestal.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Expectation is the root of anxiety, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because expectation leads to disappointment. Disappointment leads to all the negative emotions.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like that reinforcing of that negative self-talk. Like, oh, see, I knew it. Yeah. I knew that this was, going to pan out this way. Yeah. And then, it just facilitates more anxiety. And then next time that you have a good idea that would have worked out, but you have that initial, maybe it's not going to work out, because you were right about it not working out the first time, you're going to believe yourself. Yeah. And then when you say, that's not going to work, I'm not going to do it, even though it's the best idea ever and it would have made you everything that you ever could have imagined and more, because you were right about it the first time when you said that's not going to work out and then it didn't work out, right? Even though you did it, it still didn't work out. The next time you're going to say, well, last time I was right about it not working out. So, I feel like it's not going to work out, so it's probably not going to work out. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. Yeah. And then you never know. And there's a really great study that was done, and they interviewed thousands of people on their deathbed. They interviewed thousands and thousands of people. And what they regretted most were the things that they did not do. So, like, of all the things they did, they regretted more the things they didn't do. Yeah. And I think that is so powerful. And you're right, like, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed 20 minutes from now. Yeah. But if you're living in that fear mindset and you're not doing the thing you want to do, you're going to regret that. Yeah. You're going to regret that. And I personally, the whole reason I started my brand, the whole reason I started was because I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to connect with people and heal people and help people. And I would feel completely unfulfilled in life if I something, God forbid, something happens. And that didn't happen, or I didn't at least try. Yeah. At least try. Yeah. And then there's also the question of, like, you don't even know what happens when you die. No, you don't. Yeah, nobody knows. Who knows? So, like having those thoughts that it's going to be like I was saying, like you were talking about the person who felt like they didn't want to live and everything. It's like, how do you even know that it's going to be better? Like, what happens if you just wake up in another life? True. Yeah, and that's you have so to do true. It. And because you didn't learn your lessons in this life, you have to do it again and again and again until you learn. Again and again. It's like, there is nothing. We know nothing about any of that. We have ideas, we have theories, we have, religion, like science and consciousness thoughts and like whatever. Like, there's all these different things. We have ideas, but ultimately we don't know. Yeah. The way I look at it, I personally think that we do run on cycles. I believe we do. I think that I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast actually yet. So this would be an interesting one. So I call it the water drop theory. And that's how I interpret what God is after all the years of, like, having like deep Christian stuff and like having the whole Pentecostal thing shoved down my throat when I was a kid and like all that stuff. The way that I look at it is that we as people are essentially like a water molecule, right? If you imagine rain over an ocean, just for the sake of the analogy, right? That rain droplet is a water molecule that has a single set life cycle. It's going to fall from the sky, it's going to hit the water, and that's it. That's the time that it is a raindrop. Once it hits the ocean, it ceases to be a raindrop. Yeah. Right? Yep. But it's always a water molecule. True. So the water molecule falls as a raindrop and it hits the ocean. Right? When it hits the ocean, it does not cease to be a water molecule. It's still an individual water molecule. I want to make that 100% clear for people that don't understand like the science that goes into that. When you look at the ocean, you don't look out and say, oh, wow, look at all the millions of water molecules. You say, look at the ocean. Right. Right? So the way that I look at it is that what our interpretation of God is actually all of our energies, after all of it is said and done, in this thing that we're calling the ocean. It's really millions and millions and millions and millions of water molecules Yeah.
But we're calling it one thing because from our perspective, it looks like one thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's one thing. The ocean is not one thing. It's millions of water molecules.
Yeah.
And those little tiny water molecules will go back up into the sky, and they'll come back down.
Yeah.
And they'll go back up, and they'll come back down. And they have a purpose. Their purpose is to bring water to the planet, and to keep it circulating, to keep things moving forward, to keep life happening. The way that I look at it is that our energies work the same way. You have your finite human life. You know, you're here, you're in your body, your vessel, or whatever. But even when you dream, you're still seeing the same perspective.
Yeah.
You know, like even if you're zoomed out a third person point of view, you yourself, like what you're seeing never changes.
Yeah.
You only see like what's coming into this whole perspective. It even in a dream looks the same. Even if I see this body doing something, you know, it's not like I'm not in that looking and outside of it looking. I am the one perspective, the one observation, right? So the way that I look at it is that we are energy, we are the perspective, you know, the consciousness, like that's observing things. And I think that what we interpret as God is in actuality us. Like, I think that going back to like the future self, like me thinking past me, like it makes a lot of sense to think about the fact that the only person that would genuinely know when and where you're going to be at all times of every single moment of your life, that would genuinely know the path that you need to be taking, that would genuinely know you and who you are, would be yourself.
You. Yeah.
Because most things that you think and that you feel don't come out of your mouth.
True.
But somehow this thing understands all of that. So I don't know. I just feel like it's, and then at the end, I genuinely believe that I think that people probably make a decision, not people, that's not the right word, but like the energy or whatever you want to call it. I think it probably makes a decision to come back to Earth for a purpose. And that's one of the things I got out of when I was listening to your podcast. You're talking about how channeling creativity, like how it's not something that you make, but that comes to you, that you channel it and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Never goes anywhere. It's just, and then that's just my theory.
Right.
Like that I don't believe that it's something that we own. I don't think we can take ownership of creative genius and that it can't ever go away. We can't lose creative genius.
Yeah. It's like we're like a filter, like a channel.
Exactly. Like I think I use the analogy of like it's a cloud. And I just imagine like it's a little genius cloud right up above my head. And it's like I can tap it any time.
Yeah.
But it's just believing that I can, really.
So
and
like
being in the space too.
Us having a purpose and having that thing that we need to do, a message that we need to share with the world, that core value that's there from birth, like it only makes sense to me from the way that I look at the world for that to be a decision that you make. And like, to be honest, life seems like a pretty fun game. I would play it. I'm a huge MMO guy. I love RPGs. Like the concept of like being an energy and saying, okay, well, this needs to happen in order for like, you know, the progression of the world to continue. This thing needs to happen. So I need to go to Earth and I need to do this thing. But to make it fun, I'm just not going to remember anything. I'm just going to go in blind. Like, it's just like a game. You start from scratch. Like when you start a brand new video game, you have nothing, and then you get your gear and you learn things, you get new skills. And like by the end of the game, you're this badass that can do everything. You know?
I use video game analogies all the time on the podcast. Keep listening. And I'm pretty sure I used one too in that episode that you were listening to. It's like, you know, just because Mario defeats Bowser, like that's not like life. Like you don't just like defeat the big thing and then you're just like free, done. I've achieved everything forever. Like you know, you keep going and you just keep leveling up. You know,
it's just like these cycles. You know, every day is a cycle. Like you have these emotions, these thoughts, these feelings, these things that you learn. Like everything is a cycle, and it's just constantly moving life forward. You know, like that's my theory, like my water drop theory is what I call it, or the God theory that I have. It's like, I just think that we misinterpret it. You know, it's like we're too busy trying to be right to learn what it is. And it's like, you know, what happens if we were wrong with the building blocks of physics?
Yeah.
Or math? What happens if we were wrong with math?
Yeah.
And everything that we built on top of would immediately change because we would have to start over. Just because one person got it wrong 200 years ago. Yeah. But we just assume that they got it right. So nobody's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's how the world works. Whatever.
Yeah. Or they just haven't proven it wrong yet.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a lot of what science is trying to prove things wrong. And if we don't have the tools or we haven't had the experience or, you know, you can't disprove it yet.
Exactly.
But it might still be disprovable.
Exactly.
You just aren't there yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're on Instagram a lot, right?
Yeah.
What's your handle?
Jenna.Monaco, like the country. So it's JENNA.MONACO.
Yeah. So I really liked your Instagram. It was super professional.
Thank you.
I thought it was interesting. You do like this layout thing. Like you have photos and these like motivational like text things.
Yeah, I'm playing with it. Messy action. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I liked it. It was
interesting. Thank you.
And you said you're just starting out on Twitter, right?
Yes, I'm just diving into it now. So I'm trying to check it every day. That's kind of what I'm.
So have you heard of a company called Sendable?
No.
It's like Hootsuite, but better.
Yeah. Well, I haven't used Hootsuite because I don't like that it says like Hootsuite. Like, you know, it
only says that for you.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It doesn't show, like for other people, for like general public people, like whenever they go on the profile, it doesn't say that. It's just like the post.
That's the only reason I wasn't using it. But
don't use it. It's not. Yeah. Like I like the concept of what they do, but my experiences with their customer support was not great. But Sendable's really amazing. I love them. They're really great. But the reason I was telling you about them is I would suggest that with your content, because it's transferable, you know, you want to be posting on everything essentially. There's two things you could use: Sendable to post, like schedule your content out, and you don't have to use it. You could, you know, manually upload or whatever. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are like your core 3 businesses, you know, 3 things that you want to post to all the time. And there's a program called IFTTT. It's just a website. You go to IFTTT.com. It's called If This, Then That.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can literally set it up to where if I post on Instagram, share that post natively on Twitter. So it's like, literally never actually log into Twitter and type out content. You say, if this uploads, share it, right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually how I was able to build a scalable social media solution where you can actually keep the content going without ever having to stress out about it. You know, you schedule it out in Sendable, so then you're never like actually logging in, typing it out, and doing all that stuff. But then for the platforms that you don't really use, like I don't really log into Tumblr ever. But I post consistently every single day because every time an Instagram post goes out, it literally downloads the photo, copies the text, uploads a photo, puts in the text.
Oh, nice.
So it's native. Like it actually natively re-uploads the content.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's really sweet. I definitely
everyone should be listening to that too. Like check that out if you're going to put that into the episode, because there's no reason not to cut the time on social media and half if you can.
It's amazing. And they're not sponsored or anything. I just really like them. Like I, just from looking at your content, I think that would really help you out a lot if you use like just more automation tools, you know?
Yeah.
And Twitter also has a thing where you can like thank your followers. So like if someone follows you, you shout them out instantly and immediately, like without you actually doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like every time someone follows me, follow me on Twitter, Michael Isbell, you get like a post that goes out and it's like, hey, thanks blank for following me, and it's like, thank you for showing your support, and then it has a link to their Twitter page.
So
it gives them a nice little shout out, you know, just for giving you a follow, and it's just automated.
I love that, and I love supporting people who follow me. So you know, I do. Yeah, I think it's
so. We were talking about momentum and moving forward on the phone before we got in this, and kind of dealing with your anxieties without medication.
Yeah.
So that was something I definitely wanted to talk about. So if you just want to kind of like go off of that.
Yeah, that's a long journey. But I've always been a pretty anxious person. I feel like I have a short fuse. So that comes from anxiety.
Right.
And I have it sometimes. I have it sometimes.
For those of you that don't know, if you're watching this, her fiance Chris is off to the side.
So there's actually, I have to tell this story because it's my favorite story, but there was somebody who was texting and driving. They cost us a light. And I was like upset about it because A, that's not safe. Mm-hmm. And B, like, you cost us the light. So we get up to her at the next light and I like turn over and my windows rolled down and I turn over and I just see the windows start going down. And then I turn to Chris and he's not even looking at me, but he's just holding the like up button. And then I just hear like click and he child locked me.
Oh,
I know.
Awesome.
I was like, okay, he probably saved me there.
That's a smart move.
Yeah. Smart man. But yeah, so anyway, that comes from a lot of anxiety, having that like short temper, because when you're like you're like in a good place, like you're kind of unfazed by stuff like that, and you're just more peaceful. But yeah, so my anxiety stems mostly, though, I think I got the panic attack started about a year after my dad died, and it was really like PTSD. So it was like everything that happened prior to that, from being a child of an alcoholic to the verbal abuse that went into that, to having to pack up my stuff in 30 minutes and move out of my home with no place to go or nowhere to go because I was getting death threats from my dad, and he was just really in a bad place, to like moving again that same year and still trying to go to school and still holding a job. And then when everything settled down and then he passed away, my grandma passed away, 10 weeks later, my dad passed away. And when all of that settled down, I thought I was good. I was like, I put myself in therapy because thank God I could afford it. And I was like, I was like, okay, like I'm good. Yeah. Like everything's fine. I'm in the safest home I've ever been in. Like I'm in the safest time of my life I've ever been in. It's the most peaceful I've ever been. And then I started, it was something where I would wake up at 3 a.m. every single night without fail. And I thought I was dying. Like my heart was racing. I was like sweating. I thought I was like feverish and I felt sick. And I couldn't breathe, and it would happen like almost every night, and I didn't know what it was. Yeah. And so I went to the doctor. Clearly, I was like, something's wrong. I thought maybe it was my diet. I tried changing, like taking things out, adding things back in. I thought maybe it was, she only would give me a blood test. And the blood tests were coming back fairly normal. There was nothing, out of the ordinary, but she was like, well, there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. And I was like, I've been in this body for 4 or 3 years at the time. And I was like, I know when something's not right. Like, this is not normal. And I don't know what it is. I ended up reading a book where the character was having the same symptoms as me. And she was having panic attacks. And I kid you not, like the second I read that, I was like, holy crap, I'm having panic attacks. They ceased to exist. Like they stopped. And I still get them from time to time, but it's more that I can catch those triggers now, and I've learned to catch them before they get to a panic attack. Right. So I can tell when I'm feeling anxious. I can tell when I'm not in a good place, or when things are really. And then I'm like, okay, I need to pause, because if I don't address this now, it's just going to be a panic attack, and it's bad. Yeah. No, it's crazy that like. It's weird that exactly what you're saying, for the most part, like exactly is what happened to me. Like that's how I found out that like I had that whole like anxiety and like all of this stuff. Like it's really weird. Like it's literally like the exact same scenario. Like so I moved out here after like all the bad childhood stuff and all that I had to deal with. Like basically when my mom's dad died, whenever I was like when was it, like 2000 something. It was early. I was like really young, basically. Her dad died, and up until that point, she had been like super attentive, always there, like always was covering the slack of my dad, who was never there because he would always just go work all the time. And like when he was home, he was like super aggressive and like
all that stuff, but basically, whenever her dad died, she went into like a deep depression. And so like we no longer had even that support. And so I grew up where like I raised my two brothers, like I taught my baby brother, David, like almost everything he knows like how to do, So, it was a lot of that connection and everything that went into that. But whenever I moved out here, it's like shortly after high school, I moved out here, and it was like you said, like I would just start waking up in the middle of the night, having these nightmares, and like waking up shaking, crying, and like out of nowhere, I would like for a while I didn't really feel emotion, as weird as that is. It's like it's not like I'm not a sociopath, but I had like for a time sociopathic tendencies for sure.
Wow.
Like 100%. And I think it was a suppression method to not have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, you can numb yourself to that point. Yeah.
And so it got to the point where like good things happen, bad things happen. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like nothing, no emotion, no thoughts about it at all. Just nothing. And when I moved out here, it all changed. Like I just started like feeling these things and having these memories and like having these dreams. And like I said, I have these really realistic life dreams, and I would relive these traumas in my sleep and then wake up and like crying my eyes out because like I knew that it actually happened. And I actually found out that I had been raped whenever I was a kid, and and I had no idea growing up.
You blocked it out?
Yeah, I completely 100% suppressed it. No clue at all. The only reason that I know that it wasn't just like a nightmare or anything is because I found my journals and my diaries and stuff, because I used to write every single day. And I confirmed it. Like I was like, oh shit, that's real. Like
that really
exactly
happened.
what I saw. Okay, cool. But like you said, like as soon as I was able to identify the problem, then like I was able to fix it. As weird as it is,
you gotta get to that point.
But it was like the not knowing and just having that happen to me. It was like something happening to me as opposed to like making the decision to remember kind of thing,
Yep.
So, I realized that I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of like fucked up like mental problems because of that. And it's like, I don't know, like just stopped out of nowhere. Like whenever I started focusing on myself and doing, like I said, like basically there was this moment, to just kind of backtrack just a little bit. So I have a social media agency job that I have, and I'm about to start working remote full time. Right now I still go to the office and do the whole Monday through Friday, till 4:30 thing. But I just recently launched myself as an LLC. Like everything's in the work. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to be an official 1099 employee to run their marketing strategy, as well as operating the strategy that I created for the social media department. Because when I started, it was just websites and SEO, and I created it from scratch, like 100%, no help. Like
holy moly.
Yeah. In fact, I had to like convince the owner that it was a good idea. I actually took 5 of the clients, did it, and was like, look, they're ranking better than this normal strategy ever did. Like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's roll with it.
That's awesome.
And so I had gotten to a position that I think that most people would be very jealous of. And in fact, they were, like at the office. I found that as I grew, the social interactions that I had with people around me steadily like declined, like more and more and more. And so it got to the point where like every day, like people just looked at me as like another one of the managers. So it was like, I don't want to talk to him. He's a manager. He's going to tell these people all this, even though that's not the case.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where like I had a very enviable job where I had my own office. I decided what I wanted to do on a daily basis. I had a flex schedule, so I could get off depending on when I clocked in. I could get off work anytime between like 3:30 and 4:30. Like super early, super flexible scheduling. Like things were great. Things were good. I had a team, like a whole team running, a whole production team and everything. And this anxiety just out of nowhere, as soon as I kind of, like you said, like I was settled and I was good, the bills were paid. I wasn't focusing on how to build this thing anymore. I wasn't focusing on anything. It was just like trying to live my life. These anxieties came up and these memories started happening. And it got to the point that like, I just would like be at work, and obviously I never took action at this point in my life, that kind of a thing. I had some things happen whenever I was younger, but literally like the suicidal thoughts where it was like, I don't even want to, like, if this is life, I want to die. This sucks. I would rather be dead than be in this office every day. And it wasn't like that I didn't like my task, the function of the thing that I was doing. It was literally like these white walls all the way around me. I can't travel. I can't interact with people. I can't connect with people. I'm stuck here every single day. There's nothing. There's not getting out of this. And if I stop, then all the things that I have goes away. I start over. I can't financially support myself. I didn't know about the flipping thing yet. So it's like, there was just like all of this deep depression and deep anxiety rooted around like losing what I had and not wanting what I had.
Wow.
You know, so
that's powerful.
Yeah. It's like, I had this thing that like, and it was this reaction loop, right? So I would get the anxiety from being in the office, from having that life. And then I would get anxiety about having anxiety because I'm very logical. So all my life, I've had this weird ability to zoom out and look at things outside of myself. So instead of thinking, how does Michael think about this? How does Michael feel about this? What is Michael's interpretation of this? I zoom out and I'm like, okay, what should the humanity think? What on a society level? Like, how do other people interpret this kind of thing? That's how I think about the world. And it made me feel anxious that even though I had everything to some people's perspective, I didn't want that. And so having the anxiety of feeling it, I would look at it and be like, why do I have all this anxiety and get more anxiety because I felt anxiety? And I'm like, I should like this. I should want this. And that would cause it to go up. And then it would be like, because it went up, this side would be like, oh, well, now you're experiencing way more anxiety. And so why do you feel that way? You shouldn't feel that way. And then this would go, and it was just like this constant, like raising and raising and raising. You know, and I know you said you were able to just kind of cut yours, but I actually had a psychedelic experience that helped me to get through it. Yeah. So I had some experiences with mushrooms and LSD a couple of times. And I was able to really like just understand that you don't have control over anything ever. Like you have intention and you have what you want to happen. But by doing that, I was really taking the control factor away. And I think that looking back now, like from this moment right now, I think that the reason why my anxiety was there is because I felt like I could control everything around me. Because for so long, you know, my dad was gone. He was always gone working. And when he was gone, like when he was there, I had to like kind of protect my brothers and like shield them, be like, no, don't go in there. Like, you know, it's a bad situation, like teaching them stuff, stepping up. And whenever my mom had her depression and that whole thing set in, and it's like for so long, I had controlled everything to like make sure that things were good for everybody else. And then whenever I realized that like that life goes on, regardless of what you do, you know, and you can either be along for the ride and make the most out of it, or you can try to control it and fight against it. And when you fight against it, you will always lose. You know, you may have the short term, like things work out right now, but it's still there. You have to deal with it in order for it to get past it, kind of a thing. And that's actually why I started the realistic fiction book. So it really dives into like a lot of that bad stuff that happened, but it's more so dives in without getting too much, because I don't want to ruin the plot of the book, but the accumulation of it basically ends up to where I had a moment when I was a kid where I actually did try to kill myself. I tried to drown myself in a bathtub. And while I was underwater, I saw myself on stage singing a song. It was actually the first song I ever wrote, because when I got out of the water, I went and wrote it down and like made it a real song. But I saw myself on stage, and basically I realized that through this experience, I was playing the song. When I looked out at the crowd, I could see like it was like they were balls of light, but they were people at the same time. Does that make sense? Kind of,
Yeah, it does.
And so the light had these like black spots on it, but I had this like weird vision thing where I could literally look at the black spot and I knew exactly what it was, right? So it's like I would look at one person and I saw that like her husband was beating her, and then I like looked at another person and saw that like they had like had serious depression their whole life, but because they'd been told that that was wrong, like they got fucked up in their head and didn't realize it was a chemical imbalance. They thought it was like a decision or something they were doing or whatever. They were blaming themselves for a chemical imbalance, basically.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And like various different issues, and there was like all these people from all around the world. And then I started playing this song, and as I was playing it, I saw that the black spots were literally like melting off. Like it got really warm in the room as my music was playing, and it's like I literally saw it like melting off. And so the interpretation of that from my perspective was that when you share your message and you share your struggles and your pain to the world, you allow other people to let theirs go.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
So when I woke, I kind of came to, I took the thing off of my chest and like got up, wrote the song, and ever since then, I've been like gung ho, like let's do this, like let's share this message, and then like I said, that was a little bit of a backtrack, but then later on, that's whenever I found out about the whole rape thing and everything like that, and it made more sense because I used to judge myself for doing that a lot, actually, because it was like, well, why did you do that? Like that, like you're kind of a weak thing. It's like I looked at it as a weakness.
Yeah.
When in reality, and like looking back, it totally made sense. It was like, okay, cool. It wasn't just like a one-time thing either. It was like it happened over the course of a long time, like repetitively. It's kind of a thing. So it was like when I realized that, I was like, okay, so these things happened. You suppressed it. And it was always there, like constantly scratching at you and constantly. It's like, it's like if you take a paper and you constantly do this for hours. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. A couple of scratches with paper is not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. But eventually you'll cut yourself with paper. Yeah. Because it's that consistent, like clawing every single day. Mm-hmm. And eventually it turned into a wound. Yeah. It's funny that I use the word wound because I just watched the movie Once Upon a Time. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it's really good. They just put it on Netflix. Okay. It's got that guy that looks like Chris. Is his name Chris Hemsworth? He looks like the guy that plays. He looks like the guy that plays Thor, but he's not that guy. He does a lot of musicals. I can't think of what his name is. I think it's Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth is for sure Thor.
Okay, so it's not him. It's Chris something. He looks like that. They look similar.
Chris Evans?
Possibly.
Or is it He's
Chris not in Pine? The Avenger. Chris Pine, I think that's it.
Okay, yeah. Chris Pine.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. He has like a beard.
So many Chris's,
Yeah, so in that movie, Once Upon a Time, which is really, really good, they said that the wound is the place that the light is let in.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was fucking powerful. I cried a little bit when I saw that movie. I was like, oh my God.
I feel like when we connect to things, that's an emotion that can be really telling. And I actually use I use that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to cry about this. What is this trying to tell me? What is my body trying to tell me? And I think a lot of my journey with anxiety has been connecting back to my body and allowing my body to speak to me. Yeah. It's like this anxiety was here, but like what was it trying to tell me leading up to that point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. You have to pay attention. Exactly. It's almost like a slap in the face, really. It was a similar situation where I was just like, it's when you're in survival mode, you are not in panic mode because you don't have the option.
You don't have the luxury of that time.
You don't have the luxury of that time to panic about something. You're like, no, I have to get out of this. I have to get out of it now. Or I have to be strong right now. I don't have the luxury of crying. I don't have the luxury of feeling, and I know that sounds like kind of weird for somebody who might not be in that spot. And they're like, well, you can always feel. And it's like, no, you actually really can't.
No, I legitimately for years felt nothing. And I thought that I was a sociopath, actually. Like, I was terrified that I was a sociopath for a long time. Wow. I did a lot of, like, scientific research, like, looking into it, reading books, like, asking doctors, because, like, I legitimately was scared that had happened to me. Yeah. Because that, those of you that don't know the difference, a good way to learn the difference, actually, check out the new Shane Dawson series on Jake Paul. It's actually pretty good and very informative about this whole experience thing. Mm-hmm. But the difference is, sociopathy happens to you. It's created through an experience, a traumatic event in your life. Okay, so that is sociopathy. And then psychopathy So being a psychopath is when you're born that way. Like, there's a difference.
Yeah,
like,
there is.
And so I legit, like, it is very possible to be a completely, like, feeling normal, like everything's natural, and then one day something snaps and you turn into that because of a traumatic event kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And I legitimately was scared for years that had happened to me because I felt nothing. I went from being the most empathetic, feeling emotional person on the planet that I could think of, like feeling more than almost anyone I knew at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm always very vocal about my feelings and stuff. So it's like, I would know because I would tell people and they're like, oh, wow. Like, you feel that? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
To nothing, just complete nothing. And it's not even like pushing it down. It just was nothing.
It wasn't there.
There was just nothing. It was just nothing.
Yeah. And then I hit that point and I didn't know. Part of the reason I was like, it couldn't be panic attacks is because I was in a good place. Like, nothing was wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing was wrong. There was nothing happening. And I was like, well, I'm not stressed about anything. It's not stress.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought of. I was like, maybe I'm stressed. And I was like, there's nothing to stress about.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in my life there was nothing to stress about. And that was also hitting an upper limit problem because my limiting belief was that I don't deserve that. I don't deserve peace. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve the goodness that is my life right now.
Right.
And that was also causing more anxiety because I was hitting that upper limit. And it wasn't until I really, when you're in that much pain, you will take any self-help book off the shelf. You will you will listen to any podcast. You will download anything. You'll do anything to feel better.
Yeah. Or just to feel something.
Or to feel something.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And that's really where my journey with that naturally healing process came from. I didn't have the option of medication, and I'm kind of glad I didn't because I don't really believe that I personally needed it.
Right.
Because I chemically operate at a certain level that allows me to seek out those resources, to be at that level of like, okay, how can I fix this? And some people, there's a chemical imbalance there. It's like you're operating at a lower level where you can't even get to that point. And medication can help with that.
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't the case. So that's how, and I say naturally healed, but it's something that you have every day, right? Yeah. It's still a scar. It's still there. It still can itch or burn or whatever sometimes. And so, but the difference now is that I have the tools to stop it before it gets out of hand.
Yeah. I think honestly, that's the biggest thing is like, identifying it before it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Or when something stings, like, don't just move on and try to be tough. Like, for me, a huge part of my life was being the tough one.
Yeah.
And I'm an only child, so, I was the peacemaker between my mom and my dad. I was the only thing I had.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, I can't cry about this right now. Like, I have to be tough for my mom, or I have to be something for, myself, or there was times when I would hug myself and say, you're okay. You're okay.
I had those moments too.
Yeah. Because you had to help yourself.
Yeah.
And that was the only way to seek comfort was in yourself.
Yeah. I had to serve, unfortunately, like, if you're listening to this and you're a parent, I highly recommend that you take this advice and do not share your problem. Like, there's a difference between informing your kids and sharing your problems with your kids. Do not share your problems with your kids. Okay. Like, I understand that you want them to be part of the family and you want them to be connected, but do not share your problems with your kids. They are not old enough to comprehend the complexities that go behind the things that you're trying to tell them. They don't. They will not understand it. They will pick sides and you will fuck their minds up. Don't do it. Okay. I was my parents' therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my mom saw that I had the mental fortitude that I have now, but I just didn't have the knowledge that I have now. So it was different guises and different voices, different words that were coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But same ultimate thing, same like connection, same understanding, same empathy. So my mom would come to me to basically be her therapist. And then my dad would say that I was like, tell me everything, basically. Like, as if it was his best friend kind of a thing. Like, just told me literally everything. And so it's like, you hear these two opposing stories and these two opposing sides because they both think that they're right and they both have the way that they remember it and their interpretation of it. Instead of realizing that this is a problem between you two. You shouldn't make this your kid's problem. Like,
your kid is not equipped to handle, like you said, the complexities of adulthood. There comes a point in every kid's life where they realize, oh, my parent is just a human being on this earth, and they're just stumbling and bumbling and falling like the rest
dangerous.
of us.
That's dangerous,
you know. And it's like you get to that point where you realize, like, oh, okay, like you take your parent off the pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
But when that happens, like at 10.
Exactly.
You know, like when that happens at like 10, like I said, when that's the most formative time of your life, and you're like, oh shit, like if I can't.
You're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Like if I can't rely on mom or dad to be the example here, be the stability, like what do I have? Like you're living on shaky ground.
Exactly.
And it's really, really hard to be the kid who chooses the right path than going down the opposite direction. Because if your parents are the example, it's like, well, if they can't do it, what is in it for me? I mean, I have a really stable family. I am really privileged in that way. My mom has always been so supportive and great. And she was just trying to make it work the best she could too.
Yeah, I definitely have empathy for my mom's position because she was that way because of my dad. Like, he definitely turned her into that.
Yeah.
Because as soon as her dad died and wasn't there to stop him from being a dick to her all the time, he took out his aggression on her all the time. And that's when he started like throwing plates at the walls and like getting bad. Like he got the cops called on him. And like, that's when the divorce happened. Like, it was bad. I don't blame her at all. Like, she's definitely a victim, so it's like, I'm not saying that it's like her fault at all.
No.
I just wanted to clarify that.
No, yeah. I agree. Like, it's, Louise Hay actually puts it really beautifully, and she says, we're all victims of victims. And it's like my dad, I talk about him and I say that he had, his alcohol, but I've come to a place of acceptance for that. And I've come to a place of empathy for him and his journey and his story.
So my dad didn't have a dad. His dad ditched and bailed, and he grew up like tossed around back and forth between his family members, and like they're really negative, and like, he always being told that he couldn't do things and like being put into this box. So like, I understand why he is the way he is and like why that stuff happened and everything too. But that doesn't make it right.
That doesn't make it right.
It's like, just because I can understand and have empathy for it doesn't mean that it's okay.
Full circle what we were talking about, before. And it's true. And as from a child's perspective, which is where I come from, because I'm not a mom, I'm not a parent. Do not pour that onto your child. Yeah. Like whatever you do, like I want to echo that because it's not helpful to anyone. And
you lose respect. That's the biggest problem. Like for me, like you said, you start to view like, oh, they're just people. Yeah. Oh shit. Like they're literally the same as me. They just know more things.
Yeah, they've just been here longer.
When I realized that at 8 years old, I started reading encyclopedias. Like I taught my mom algebra. Like I helped her with algebra because I read the book, understood it, and was like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. You just do these numbers and it makes sense. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Kind of a thing. Like I watched YouTube videos. I read books. I talked to people outside of them. Like I learned from other people's experiences. And very quickly I surpassed the level that they were at mentally because they had stayed 20 years old and just thought, oh, I had kids. Now I can't progress. Now I'm just going to keep being the same person instead of growing. Yeah. And then at 8 years old or whatever age it was, whenever I realized like we're just people, we're all on the same level, it made me lose all of that respect. Like instead of it being like, I don't think of them through the guise of that's my dad or that's my mom. I think of it from the guise of you're a human being. And like whenever you talk down to me and you think, yeah, you have to listen to me because I'm your parent.
Oh yeah.
That does not exist. It's like I'm a human being and you're a human being, and you can either talk to me and respect me as another human being like you would a random stranger on the street, or we won't exist and have an interaction. Yeah. And that's how it is with my dad right now. We don't really talk right now because every time I've tried to draw that line in the sand and say, hey, I understand what you did. Let's have a future so that my grandkid, so that your grandkids can actually have someone there, like so that who you can be in their life and exist. Like let's draw a line in the sand and move forward in a positive direction from today, kind of a thing. Didn't work out. Gave my mom that same thing. It has. We have a good relationship now. Like, I don't talk to her all the time, but like, we have a good relationship, and she understands that that's how I view them. Yeah. I will never view you as my dad that is giving me fatherly advice. Ever. Yeah. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. You passed that point. You can't like revert and go back to that and like move forward with the father mentality kind of a thing. It's like, you can be the guy that raised me and be the guy that like, and the reason why I exist, but that's like where that ends. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, other than that, you're a human being talking to a human being. You don't talk to human beings the way that he talks to me sometimes. And that's why I don't have interactions with him anymore. Yeah. And that's very indicative of like where you're at too, you know, like now as of today, like how you're setting that boundary and you're setting that standard for yourself. No negativity. And it's just like, it's like, no, like I'm not, you don't get to treat me this way. Yeah. And it doesn't matter who it is. Yeah. It really doesn't matter who it is. It's like, I don't care if you're the president of the United States. Like, when I'm talking to you, you're a human being and I'm a human being, and you either have respect for that or I will walk away. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. You know? It's so true. And I think, if you're a parent listening to this, I hope that gives you some insight, because I think across the board, anyone who has had to be that person, that kid who's had to be that level of a therapist to their parents will say the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's about time to wrap this up. What do you have for people to look you up? I know you have your website, and everything will be linked below as well, but just go ahead, tell people where they can find you. Okay. Best place to actually hang out with me is on Instagram. So Jenna.Monaco. And it's where I hang out most. It's where we connect most. And you can find me on Twitter as well. I think it's Jen_Monaco. And then you can also find me on my website. It's also just www.jennamonaco.com. And on the podcast, please listen and enjoy and let me know if you like it. And what's the name of that again? Spark Intention. Yeah, Spark Intention. Yeah. Oh, also, note on your podcast. It's kind of random. First off, I love the way you branded everything super intelligently. Like, you definitely want to have little known fact. Always have the same name everywhere, no matter what you do, no matter what you change. Like, if you change, you put a middle initial in it or whatever, change everything. Website domain, because Google does something called NAP, name, address, and phone number. So obviously you can have like location. It doesn't have to be like, 1234 Culver Street or whatever. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't have to be the actual address. Mm-hmm. But if it's like Costa Mesa, California, for example, then everything you have needs to say Costa Mesa, California. So it's name, address, and phone number. Those are the three biggest things for ranking. And essentially, the way the algorithm works is if those are not consistent, then Google sees it as two separate entities. Right? Yeah, so like my name's Michael. I go by Michael B. Isbell. It's my middle initials, Brendon. So like everything is Michael B. Isbell. Everything. Yeah. Right. But if I had something that was just Michael Isbell, like my personal Facebook, that doesn't connect. Like when you search for Michael B. Isbell Media, Michael B. Isbell, MBIM, whatever, my personal Facebook doesn't show up because it's Michael Isbell. Everything else is Michael B. Isbell. Right. And so it thinks that they're separate entities. Even though it's still me, it thinks that they're separate entities. Yeah. So, little known fact. Thank you. Yeah, Thank you for that. So this has been amazing. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next week. If you liked this episode of the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and follow on whatever your listening application of choice may be. That way, you can get notifications every Wednesday when we upload a brand new episode. If you're listening to this via audio podcast format, you can watch the video for this episode on YouTube, DTube, or pretty much any other platform where video can be natively distributed. Please be sure to like, comment, and share to get the conversation rolling and build out this community of like-minded professionals so we can learn from each other and share our stories. Links to all the products I use to make this content are down in the description below, as well as all the links for our fantastic guest and what we talked about in this episode. If you would like to further show your support for the channel, you can find out how you can be a direct supporter on Patreon or Anchor in the description below. Or you can make your way over to shopmichaelbisbell.com and get yourself some awesome new merch from our collection of designs or one of the digital tools to help accelerate your own brand forward.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Wednesday Wanderer. I look forward to seeing you back here next week.